Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and welcome to episode 196 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. Today, I am joined, as always, by the man that'll shatter your eardrums with his booming podcast voice, but never your hearts, Lord Cognito. How are you today, sir?
Not good. Not good. I think me and you have both.
Yeah, we went through it this week.
Yeah, we've been hurting this week. Stomach health is wealth. It's not been wealth. Oh my God. I don't know what I did, bro. Like, I'm trying to, now I got to track like my eating for like the past week. Something I ate set me off. And at first I'm like, just a little rumble, a little upset somewhere. Oh, no. This was diverticulitis saying, yo, we back, son. We back.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was like, and it got worse. And I knew it was bad because I went with Solve and the homies to see Transformers 1. And I had to go before the movie start.
Yep.
I got to the movie theater. My stomach said, yo, you better not go in that theater.
You're bold when you got a stomach problem to be going out. Like, that is gutsy, dude. For me, stomach problems shut it all down.
I should have. I'm just thinking it was just a little rumble.
Yeah, no, I love the courage.
Yeah, a little rumble. So then I even gave myself another preemptive strike. I got Pause. That was a good one. We cooked all the way down.
We're not even 2 minutes in.
You got me. We in. So I'm like, yo, I feel this way. I'm going to go to the bathroom right before the movie start at the theater.
Yeah.
I go, get in the theater, watch the joint. I'm like, all right, cool. Get to the car, start the drive back home. Now it's about a 25-minute drive, right? Soon as I pull off, my stomach said, yo, we got to go right now. I'm like, no, not now. I'm like, 5-10 minutes in the gym. There's no bathrooms. There's no rest stop. What am I going to do? I'm sitting there driving like, we got to try to make it.
Yeah.
It was so bad. Literally, I had like a little bit of respite. It stopped for a bit. I'm like, okay, I'm safe. And then literally as soon as I pulled up to my block, it was like now.
It's a mental thing. When you get to your house, it's always a little more urgent because you know you're there. You know, bro, you're almost there.
Things were slowly starting to exit my body. Right. Not to be great. It was that bad, bro.
Damn,
I'm a grown man.
Wrecked compared to me. Holy shit.
Bro, it was that bad. You know when you go through the door, you just strip?
Yeah.
And you dive. It was a strip and a dive situation. That was it. So I heard you had similar. Well, not exactly.
I was supposed to be on Summon Sign earlier this week. I was bummed to miss it. I told Brad I'll be available for the next 2 weeks. I felt bad. I had the hour of bail because I thought I had the similar kind of like false alarm. Like the night I was like, yeah, but we'll be good for tomorrow. Like I'm not cooked. But for me, it was definitely like mild food poisoning because I don't know, bro. Like we ordered sushi and I'm guessing that's what it was because it tasted a little fishier than the thing is, bro, I've always said, like, what's the opposite of a sniper? Because like, that's me when it comes to picking out food spots and food things on the menu and being like, yeah, this actually looks different. I'm going to try that out. I'm not him when it comes to picking out good items on the food menu. Like I always got to go all reliable. Like I'm teaching myself that now, like I'm not deviating anymore. Cause I was like, oh, we've ordered from these other sushi places. It was DoorDash, $8 delivery fee. I'm like, I'm not doing that shit, man. Hell no. It's like, let's order from this new place. All right. Lesson learned there. We're not going back, I'm guessing.
Ooh.
Yeah, bro. It was just, toilet all day. I mean, I had plenty of time to cozy up with Starfield Shattered Space. You know, I took
I heard you did.
Yeah. But got to really so my day wasn't getting worse. But I had a lot of time to play Starfield Shattered Space, specifically on Monday and really sit into it. But yeah, man, like I had the same thing. So I had to miss Summon Sign, but that'll kind of benefit, I think, the show because I originally was going to talk about Smite 2 and Secret Agent Clank, but now I'll have much more to talk about with Starfield and some other stuff come next week if I'm on Summon Sign. I don't know if Brad's going to tap me on the shoulder yet or not. I'm assuming he will, but yeah, you and I were both suffering early this week. But who wasn't, Cog?
Who?
Look at the shirt, the New York Mets, man.
Woo!
We got a write-in from Namistai25. You can write over on patreon.com/laststandmedia with a lot of great write-ins this week. Thank you for tuning in. Namistai writes, hello, Dukes. How about them Mets? That game against Atlanta 8-7 was so good. I wish I was a Mets fan like Matty. No Cog mentioned here. What's going on there? What? Namistai, you got to rep Cog here. Cog is a longer Mets fan than I. But, dude, what's going on? I'm in.
What a game.
I'm in. Why not us?
I'm shocked. Yeah. I wasn't sure if you was in.
I was in, bro. Dude, we fought back twice now. And then they did the right thing. They took game 2 off. I was like, yeah, fuck it, dude. Like,
exactly. You're in. You're in. Yep. Bro, I loved it. It was, look, that team historically always crushes our dreams. Let's just be honest, right? Damn so brave. To do it on the road, to do it in Atlanta, and to do it in that fashion meant so much to the Mets fans. People were hitting me up, my best friend, because I was nervous. I was just like, man, I don't know. They're gonna have us lose in this devastating, heart-wrenching fashion. Yeah. And I just watched it. I see Lindor. I was like, yeah. It was magical. It was
one of those moments where I was like, I might have to take back everything I've said about him from one swing of the bat.
We as Met fans, we don't get that. We don't get like the superstar comes through at the biggest moment, and it's not like Beltran. Just don't do anything. You know, we've had all those moments where it's just embarrassing. So to see it happen in that way, especially me and you both have been on him, during the acquisition, like he's good, but we needed to see, you know what I'm saying? And that was what I wanted to see from him.
100%, bro. And his reaction, he hit that homer and did not that's the difference with Lindor this year. His demeanor, bro, way fucking better. Because he's just like, I'm expected to do this and I'm going to do it versus I have to do this. I feel the pressure to do this. He's a way better player because of it. He's so good right now. That swing, like the fact that he stepped up and it was 6-7 and I'm like, I think he's got one in him. And when I saw him hit that, I was like, out of my seat. I couldn't. Yes. I was so excited because when it was 2-0 and we were getting pushed by whoever the fuck his name is, I was like, this is such a Mets way to lose. Like, I've never heard of this guy. we're getting dominated. We're not hitting the ball. I'm like, this is perfect. And we gave up a home run to I think, Albies. I was like, yep, perfect. Like, this is exactly how it should go. Yep. And then we get ahead. I'm like, oh my God, wait, we're awake. Like, we lasted the starter. They made a bad call. We're taking advantage of it, beating up the relievers. And then when Diaz happens, bro, that gave me again. That's typical Met stuff. Yeah, like Benitez blowing saves, or Bailey Wagner blowing saves. Yeah. Like we have these dominant things, but in the biggest moment, the choke go down. Yeah. So you're like, there it is, typical Mets fashion. Did you see what he said to go back out in the?
No, I didn't.
He literally said to the Hefner was telling him like, you're done. Like, after that, you're out. And he was just like, no, give me the ball. He literally said, I got this shit. And he went out and gave up like a leadoff double. Like all the comments were like saying to the quote, they're like, he in fact almost did not have that shit.
That's classic. I love it, man. But yeah, to see that result, man, was so cool. Yeah. And we got the Milwaukee game 1.
Yeah. Yeah. And game 2 will be happening as we're recording. So let's hope it turns out well. But I mean, dude, nothing made me happier. Fuck Rhys Hoskins, man. Can't stand that guy. After the start of this season, like that's what I love about baseball. It's fucking poetic, man. Like this dude, people thought ended our season to open things up. Nothing would be better than to shut his season down at the very end of it. So I'm on my diabolical Mets wave now. Let's go Mets.
I'm on my twirling mustache. Let's go Mets.
Let's go. All right, Cog. We got more write-ins here. This one's from Found Waldo. Hey, Dukes, first off, congratulations, Matty, on your wedding. I just got engaged a month ago, and wedding planning is turning out to be more stressful than expected. Since we're having a destination wedding of going from New York City to Portugal.
Ooh, wow. Okay, that's what's up.
We've had to make the tough choices on who to include or not. Hearing your experience about recognizing that your wedding is your day really helped me put things into perspective. My fiance and I have cut down our list significantly and feel less stressed. Thanks for the much-needed wake-up call. Having my Xbox bricked right before I booted up Shattered Space kind of day. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Damn, I'm sorry, bro.
That's such a bummer. I'm glad it helped, though. I saw a couple of people say that it helped. I was very happy to hear that. Yeah, like, it's your day. Like, enjoy it. Like, make it what's fun for you and your beloved, whoever that may be. That's what's most important. Be selfish for one day. is my mindset. And
I loved what you said on that. I actually love that topic in general. That constellation was
oh
amazing.
yeah, we didn't shut that out, bro. What
that
reaction to it's been really good too, which made me happy. I was like, that was a
yeah.
fucking amazing episode.
That was one of the best episodes, I will say. Shout out to the Ray Gun, man.
Yeah.
Hosted. No disrespect, Dagan. Love you. No
Yeah.
disrespect. You know, I love you.
What about his, did you read his description?
Yo, his description was
so good. So good.
It was so good.
Very, very chaotic. I love it.
Yes, very chaotic. Love it.
Because I love that, like, when I write the description for Duke, I'm like, okay, like I'm representing Last Stand. Like, how can I be professional about this? And Chris is like, fuck this.
He put his fingerprint on it, and he was like,
I love him, though. I love it.
I love it.
All right, this one I didn't read. I just saw the name and I pasted it into the document. That one kid from Target writes in, Dear Defining Duke, why did you hurt me, Mr. Matty Place? For my birthday this year, my mommy said she'd take me to Target to buy Astrobot as long as I did my homework and all my chores. I worked for weeks and weeks until finally it was time to go buy my new favorite game. As we walked toward the aisle, we saw a tall, goofy-looking guy wearing a Sonic shirt and a TMNT backpack. He pushed the little girl to the ground as she was reaching for the last copy of Astrobot and said, tough shit, kid. Life comes at you fast. No romancing game.
Yo, this is great.
I began to cry as he walked away with the last copy. Mommy and Daddy are fighting more now. I think they're going to get a divorce. Why did you have to take that last copy, Mr. Matty Place? Why did you have to steal my joy? Sincerely, that one kid from Target.
Yo, that is a GOAT writing. The details, bro. The details. Oh my God.
Concept of no romancing games is what got me. Yes. The Sonic, the TMNT. I love this.
Backpack. Yeah.
Thank you for listening so closely to an accurate representation of what exactly happened that day.
It was a classic story too. I was laughing.
That was good, man. Thank you for the write-in. Appreciate that, Target kid. Hope you're doing better. Enjoy Fortnite.
Yes.
All right. Cog, we got to talk about the live show available now to patrons if anyone wants to check out the San Diego live show, but fans are realizing a work was in the mix there.
He had the job.
Dam's Rage writes in, or DMNS, I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong, says, Dear Dukes, just watched the live show when it dropped on Patreon. I got to say, at first I was in disbelief. Surely during the Jeopardy portion, someone was clearly screwing up the point tally. No, sir. When I played it back and got my pen and paper out, it really was that bad. I tracked every point. Sorry, guys. I told you. Duke's got worked on Jeopardy, man.
I don't know, man. You know, I don't want to say there was home cooking.
Mm-hmm. We verify everything we said when we got back, right? I said we got back. It was home team advantage. Like, Brad did the right thing. I was like, who's here for the Dukes? I'm like, who? I was like, what the fuck? I remember looking at you backstage. I was like, are they serious right now? Of course, just thinking symbols. Yeah. I'm like, so they had to win. That's horseshit.
It is what it is. Shout out to the judges and the refs. You know, next time we get back, you got to be good with the refs. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to disrespect the refs. I'm just joking. It is what it is. I didn't watch back the scoring thing, but hey, it is what it is. I had fun. That's all that matters. I was with the homies. Yeah. We had a good time. Shout out to Hogue, man. I don't want to. Hogue
carried us in Jeopardy.
Yeah, Hogue was all fire with certain things, man. And I like our little huddle and playbook. Yeah. I felt a lot of team synergy. So to me, the experience was fun as hell.
All that podcasting came to fruition there. So
exactly.
Writing in last write-in before we get into the news. Gabriel SG, lengthy write-in here. I'll kick it to you right after I'm done reading. Cog, get some thoughts on it. Hey Dukes, congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Plays. As someone who's planning a wedding for next year, hearing Matty's approach is giving me food for thought. I'm glad to hear it, Gabriel. I have a bit of pushback from last week's episode as I feel the vitriol shown towards the PS5 Pro and Horizon Remaster was a bit over the top. Now, I want to just pause for a moment there and just say, I recognize when reading this and answering this that we will incite you once more. So this will just be our final thoughts on the topic.
Yes.
I have a bit of pushback from last week's episode as I feel the vitriol was shown toward the PS5 Pro and Horizon Remaster. Firstly, both of these products are optional upgrades. No one is forced to buy them, and the previous products will continue to work fine. So both seem entirely inoffensive. Second, while the PS5 Pro doesn't, quote, fix, end quote, CPU issues games this gen have, it does offer a 10% boost, which was proven by the footage shared with Digital Foundry and the AI resolution upscaling, which currently is only found on high-end GPUs, and goes a long way to improve visual quality in games such as Rebirth, where the performance mode now does not look like I'm using Chris Raygun's glasses to play it. Matty, you called this out in your review of the game, so surely having this option fixed is a good thing, right? Lastly, the Horizon remaster might seem a bit unnecessary, but if you have not played the second game, I think you are missing a lot of the context of how much they increased the visuals and bringing the first in line with the second for $10. Plus 10 hours of new motion capture scenes seems like a fair price. It's more than just an up-res and FPS boost to the PS4 game. Plus, the work has been handled by Nix's, a porting studio, so it's not like this has held up new games from Guerrilla. Sorry for the lengthy write-in. The only thing that shattered is my faith kind of day. Thank you, Gabriel, for writing in. And on that mindset, Cog, just particularly with the closing thoughts of like teams being held up with ports or remasters or whatever you want to call this, or remakes. I know a tweet from Susie Spearhunter saying she wasn't going to cover Silent Hill 2 remake kind of went viral because she was like, miss me with that. I'm not interested in remakes. I feel like we're stagnant. A lot of people were like, well, look, you covered like Resident Evil 4 remake and you were very hyped for that. But I kind of shared a little bit, like I didn't fully agree with her take, but I kind of shared the thoughts of like, yeah, we are going back to the well, but my nuance to that conversation, which unfortunately for her and everyone else doesn't really exist on Twitter, is that I worry if companies that make games I love, like CD Projekt Red, I know they're remaking Witcher, but if that was taking away specifically from like the next things they're doing, but we know they're doing The Witcher 4, and we know they're also doing a new Cyberpunk game, so I'm not worried about them remaking it. But with all of this in mind, Cog, any updated thoughts based on what Gabriel has shared here on PS5 Pro or Horizon Remaster? I know last week a lot of people were very upset with me and my disgust with the Horizon Remaster. Spoiler, that hasn't changed. In fact, it's kind of been reinforced in that window. I was surprised to see some disagreement only because of news that broke in between then and now. But I want to give you the floor first, Cog. Any thoughts?
Yeah, as the cops, I was trying to wait for them to go by, but hopefully they're done now. Look, my position really hasn't changed. I want to shout out, to Gabriel. Obviously he still feels, this is good value. This is the pushback that, he could justify, both of these products. Look, here's the thing, I kind of stand on the Horizon thing even more so because of the fact that I look at the situation that, yes, you could say, hey, it wasn't resources because they used Nixis and this is a porting studio, whatever. Again, I look at it from the standpoint of this is not something I'm looking for Sony to do. This is not a practice I want to encourage. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, now we're getting into this strange territory of games that are not that old and that still look graphically impressive, but you're just saying, hey, we need a new can of paint for an audience in conjunction with a movie or another game or a TV series. And that's just not something I want to reward. I don't want to reward that kind of behavior with companies. So that's me. And then the second thing with the PS5 Pro, yes, with next generation, CPU, I mean, the PSSR technology and all that high upscaling, I get it. But again, 10% upgrade to a CPU does not impress me personally. Also, we talked about, I think, Dragon's Dogma, getting into the 50s now and stuff like that. This is a system that's being promoted as like, 8K and 120 hertz and stuff like that. All right, I get that. That's buzzwords, that's marketing. But for the actual practicality, the use of it at 60 frames per second, it's still not hitting the target. We could say it's at 50, but it's not hitting the 60. That's still the point. And again, a lot of these games this generation, what we're gonna discuss today, are very CPU bound. That's what we're learning. A lot of reason why these frames are not getting hit are CPU issues. So to me, if you're not upgrading the CPU and you're just doing the GPU and then you're doing all these other cool next generation techniques, great. But I need to see it on next gen games, not just the old games that come up to not even 60 to 50 frames per second. I want to see like, okay, when the GTAs come out. Now, I will give people who are supporting the PS5 Pro this. If GTA comes out, the new joint, and they hit 60 with these techniques, impressive. I stand corrected. That's impressive to me. Don't give me no old joints. Talk about, yeah, we in the 50s or like, I'm not impressed, bro. I'm sorry. So there's nothing no one's going to say to me to tell me, yes, I need this for sure. No, the only thing that may have tempted me, Matty, was like the 30th edited. That joint looked hot. I ain't going front. As a Sony PlayStation 1 guy, I was like, damn, that kind of look hard. Yeah. I ain't going front. Was it $1,000 hard? No. And how, the whole situation, I don't know if you heard now that like they had to, this is what I'm mad too. In Japan, they have a system now that when you go reserve it, you use your PSN ID. Why they had that for the US? What's going on? Like to stop the scalping.
I haven't pre-ordered anything through PS Direct since the PS Portal. So yeah, I don't remember doing it for that. But that if they don't have that in the US, that's that's a good system. I was like, how do you get around? Because that thing got scalped. Like immediately I saw people trying to sell it for like, I don't know if it's gone up or down, but immediately I saw people trying to sell the 30th anniversary PS5 Pro for like 4K. I was like, holy.
Yeah, that's wild.
I mean, yeah, it's gonna be a highly sought after collectible item, especially years down the line. And I do think that's cool. Like I like that those things exist. I wish they sold just the plates, but I guess that would kind of defeat the purpose of like, trying to make this highly sought after collectible. But I wish they did, because I would have bought the plates. I thought about buying the controller, but I really like across the room right now. But I love my PS5 DualSense, the Spider-Man 2 one. I think it's
that was
sick.
Yeah, sick.
Love it. So yeah, it's tough for me to want to replace it, but to have like a backup option that looks really cool. Wouldn't hate that. I have a couple of cool Xbox controllers, so wouldn't hate tying those together. But yeah, I just want to talk on the Horizon remaster real briefly, because since I shared my thoughts of just like, I hate it, they doubled the price digitally. Now, look, I know the immediate argument is like, well, most people own it. And based off Gabriel, with all due respect, immediately you're like, look, no one's forced to buy them, so it's inoffensive. I'm like, I know the kind of goalpost moving arguments that occur with these things. Like, well, most people already own it, so it's just for the people who don't. They're paying $40 for a great game. It's like, it's about the practice and the mentality of like, this was $20 and now this artificial price hike steps in. It's now $40 to own Horizon Zero Dawn digitally, because then they charge you another $10 to upgrade the PS4 version. It's just not right, man. Like that's why I felt I was already fine with my take. And then I saw that news and I'm like, come on, even if you love PlayStation, I love PlayStation. You look at that and go like, yeah, that's my box. No, man. Not me, at least. Like, that's disappointing. That's super disappointing. Nothing's really changed otherwise when it comes to, dude, it could be $10, $5, okay, maybe $5. I don't know. But my point being is, I don't need to have the full context of playing Forbidden West. Like, I have eyes, right? Like, I understand it looks much better, but that's doing Zero Dawn a disservice, which is a great looking game. The art direction of that game is really what captured people. When we first saw that, I forgot which PlayStation presentation it was during, but it was a while ago. I remember like the robot dinosaurs. That was like a huge deal. People were like, what is this, man?
Gorilla allowed to do something different.
Yeah. I was like, wait, this is the Killzone developer?
Yes.
It was a huge deal. And that game, its color, there are still shots I have that I look back on from my PS4 when I reviewed Zero Dawn before it came out that I love. Like, I feel people are doing that game dirty by acting like it even needed a major upgrade.
It's a beautiful game.
It's a beautiful video game.
Beautiful game.
Beautiful. So, to your point, Gabriel, you said the work has been handled by Nix's supporting studio, so it's not like it's holding up Guerrilla. And that's fair and that's fine. That's the only non-drawback, if you will. But I saw people in the comments like, aren't you worried that developers aren't going to have jobs and stuff? I'm like, there's more meaningful port work, remaster work that can be done beyond Horizon Zero Dawn that would keep people employed under the PlayStation brand. I got one word for you, and it's Bloodborne, man. Like, come on now. I'm not sitting here pretending it's like, maybe it is on the level of Horizon. I don't know. Definitely in the terms of zeitgeist, I don't think it is. But, I think there are plenty of things that Nixis can work on beyond Horizon, and they'll keep their jobs. So I think they're okay. But yeah, when it comes to the PS5 Pro, I did mention Rebirth and how performance mode was going to look better. It wasn't last week's episode. I didn't mention it, but I think I talked about it in my video. I'm like, that is good for me. It's just what I've said before, which is this is a luxury upgrade. If you got the bread to throw at it, I can see why people might just like want the best, performing system on the market. And that's cool. For me, who employs like a lot of people, I don't have like a lot of extra cash to spend on myself. $1,000 almost for like the new disc drive and everything to experience games in a little bit of a better way. I just don't got the scratch for that. And I don't think, frankly, it's worth it. But I don't think I've tried to really shame people out of that. But just to be clear, like if you are buying it, because I have a very close friend who is buying it, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't think it's worth it at all, frankly. But if you think it's worth it because those things matter to you, like he is a big frame rate and visuals guy, and particularly he's a massive Final Fantasy fan. So for him, he's like, I'm planning my Rebirth playthrough. I'm planning my 16 replay. Like I'm planning it all out. Like this stuff matters to him. We have so many long, deep chats on this sort of stuff because like we're from opposite ends. Like I like Bethesda Game Studios stuff. Clearly visuals and fidelity and that sort of shit is like second to me compared to him. So there are people out there who value that experience, and I don't want to be disrespectful to them because I do get it. The remaster part of things, you're not going to change my mind on it. Like until PlayStation stops it, you're not going to change my mind on it. I think it's really disappointing what they do there.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's much to add as far as the same thing. I have a friend who's like, I'm getting the Pro. Like, bro, knock yourself out. You're an OLED guy. You got VRR. You're going to take it to the limit. This is what you wanted for your PlayStation. Absolutely. It's just for me, I don't see the justification right now. Maybe it changes with a GTA. Maybe it changes with a Ghost of Yotei. But right now, there's nothing that they're doing over there that's going to be, but don't let me stop your joy if you looking about interested in copying it.
Indeed. All right, Cog. With that, we move on to the news. Xbox has expanded its research initiative to gather feedback on why developers are skipping the platform. Here's how Microsoft describes it on their website. Quote, the objective is to listen to developer partners in the Xbox ecosystem and partner with product teams to bring forward insights and data that could help improve future tools and services. By directly engaging with game creators, Xbox aims to get the data that'll help address pain points and enhance the experience of partners across the spectrum of disciplines involved in bringing games to market. Xbox's new research initiative is an attempt toward a forward-thinking approach to supporting game creators. By turning their attention to the people behind the games, the research team aims to foster an environment where developers of all sizes and backgrounds can thrive, ultimately leading to a better experience for players worldwide. If you are making video games, we're interested in hearing from you. If you aren't on Xbox, we'd love to know why. And honestly, if you are using our competitors' products, you probably have a great perspective we could learn from. It's a bit like testing players who play games like yours. They are your target audience, and you want to hear fresh perspectives because their expectations may differ from folks who are deep in your community, end quote. So what do you think of this, Cog? Xbox kind of saying like, hey, some of y'all are skipping? What's going on? What are our thoughts here? That this seems to be a response to, we saw the indie program miss a couple of beats. We saw, of course, games from Capcom with MT Framework skip. So what are your thoughts on what Xbox is doing here to tighten things up a bit?
It's funny because I was thinking about my hip hop heads remember this, a 50 Cent reference when he was coming up before he became big. He's like, I want to be your favorite. And if I'm not your favorite, I want to know why. So the Xbox want to be your favorite. They want to know why. Look, better late than never. That's what I say. You know what I'm saying? Look, this is an initiative that is sorely needed. It's clear, they're looking at why developers are missing the platform. What are the decisions internally for people to go to other platforms? And this is, look, all jokes aside, this is a good thing. I'm surprised it took this long to develop such a team and to recognize this deficiency. But we've said on Define Duke multiple times, like, yo, it's not a good look when things skip. You don't want to give that perception of lesser than. You now, this is the grassroots. See, I love stuff like this, like getting that grassroots effort, but also now creating a program and this initiative to say, hey, we have to isolate this issue. This is a pain point here. And I like that type of stuff. So even though I'm joking, I'm giving them smoke, you know what I mean? I do like the fact that someone thought this was important enough to make an initiative. So we'll see how effective it is. I hope it's not just, lip service. And I hope that they really do meet with developers to see what's going on, kind of thing. So, like I said, I like to see stuff like that because ultimately that makes the platform better. Yeah,
it is a little strange it took so long, but I am curious what they get out of something like this in the terms of what do they learn from the potential PlayStation side of thing? What do they hear from developers who choose to skip their platform? Because there's no denying that sort of comment gets traction when developers speak out about like, here's why we're not doing this, here's why we're doing this. It's just kind of strange to me that it just wasn't a thing in the first place. Maybe they had to be a little humbled, I don't know, where they were like, okay, it's happening a lot. But what it is, to me, I take it as an admission that there was a problem there. Like there was a problem where I know a lot of people were like, well, Xbox, they get on the receiving end of a lot of the criticism because it's easy to like drag them and get engagement or whatever the hell people say. But when you see a company react to it, it's because it's affected them in a way where they're like, we need to target this and figure out why it's happening. So it's a problem to them. And that is, to me, the biggest takeaway from this is like they're looking at it thinking, what are we doing wrong? Like, we think we got a good system here. What are we doing wrong? That's my interpretation of it. So I'm keen to see how they adjust. And hopefully next year, very minimal stories break of like, yeah, we reached out to Xbox. Our game is ready. Our port is ready. And we can't make the platform. It's just happening too much with big and small. Like, we're not just talking about that Italian Souls-like game.
Yeah, remember that?
We're not talking about just that, but like even when Baldur's Gate 3 ended up skipping and it was like parody. It's like, it's just all different levels, all different reasons. And I think they just need to kind of collect information on like, what are the pitfalls that prevent developers from coming to the platform, and then target those to entice them or to make it easier, and see how it goes from there. All right. Next up, Cog, YoshiP on Final Fantasy 16 coming to Xbox. Quote, of course, we did announce the PC version of the game. So looking towards the Xbox version, we do want to release it on Xbox.
Wait, could you repeat that statement? I hate to be... I'm just curious. What did that... YoshiP said what?
Of course, we did announce the PC version of the game. So looking towards the Xbox version, we do want to release it on Xbox.
Oh, okay. Okay. Interesting.
But when it comes to the specifics, such as when the game would be available and such, we are not in a position to be able to share anything. But of course, I want to say that it's not as if there's zero hope. We very much do want to achieve that. So players should not give up in terms of their hopes, end quote. So, Cog, what's our read of this?
Like, I gotta be messy because I was just so surprised there was so much emotionality from, certain groups, what I'm saying? With me just saying that, I think it's coming, you know what I mean? And I think what it is, it came down to the fact that when 16 didn't show at TGS, right? So everybody's like, Cog, you see, never, what are you talking about? And I said, okay, I get it. I obviously thought it may have come there, but at the end of the day, what we'll discuss is that I do think there is a pipeline issue here. And if we look at Square historically, they don't seem to do multi-platform releases a lot at the same time. And when they were in mercenary mode, you see like it was a port for this platform or just a port for this platform and so on and so forth. And the fact that it did take PC so long to get Final Fantasy is also something. So, from what I hear, Xbox is, really being aggressive as far as trying to, mend that relationship, help them out as soon as they, as much as they can. And I'm glad YoshiP said this because for whatever reason, there is an emotionality to 16 that I'm realizing in the community. And I'm just like, I thought we all knew this was going to come. You know what I'm saying? Now, as far as 7 Remake, that could be longer, right? All 3 games may have to come out. There could be contractual agreements. But the reason why I was messy this time, Matty, I just didn't understand why people were so emotional that it would never happen. And I'm like, it's happening. It's not just a pixel remaster and shut up. You're getting all those games. It's just going to take time. That's all.
I get the emotionality for like 7 because 7... has heritage dating back to the PS1, and 7 seemed to be the one that's staying. That was the one that's more in doubt still to me, even. 16, I'm very surprised to hear that people are coming for you for that, because I feel like Square Enix has gone back and forth, they're back again saying that 16 didn't really meet expectations for them. And we don't know what their standards and expectations are, and that doesn't deem it as non-profitable. Like I've gone through it all. But with Final Fantasy 16, they want this thing everywhere. They want to sell it everywhere. And they've kind of admitted as much that like this exclusive path of theirs is not making them money. I don't know if that means that 16 would have met their expectations. I think it's just going to raise Square's expectations. Like, oh, we wanted to sell 4 million units with 16 on PS5. But now if they do a multi-platform launch, it's probably going to be like 8 million. Like they're still going to have extremely high expectations. I don't know if they avoid that internal disapproval. But when it comes to Final Fantasy 16 going to Xbox, I feel like that's pretty much a lock. It was always like that and Pixel Remaster. Like, all right, see you when we see you. Pixel Remaster being there with the launch of the Anniversary Edition was really cool. So I thought that was good to see. That was, again, we were all really disappointed when they announced the new version of Pixel Remaster and then it wasn't for Xbox. I almost feel like maybe that was a little bit of an oversight to tuck it away as like a secondary announcement rather than being a part of that initial relaunch announcement. But point being is I feel like 16 was always kind of a lock. It's just a matter of when. I think sometime next year, probably. Sometime late next year would be my guess.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right. This one is really interesting, Cog. We're talking about Hi-Fi Rush 2 as we have some interesting tidbits from Krafton CEO Chang'an Kim and head of corporate development Maria Park on the game. For starters, Kim says that, quote, we can't acquire Tango Gameworks based on their financials or their numbers, right? We don't think Hi-Fi Rush 2 is going to make us money, to be frank. Tango Gameworks are creative. They want to try something new, and we want to do more of that. Making video games is really a hit or miss industry, and that is risk-taking. But having more project lineups is actually a way to mitigate risk because one of them might not work out, end quote. It's very interesting on that, but even more so is an idea of what Hi-Fi Rush 2 will be, which we have details on here. Mm-hmm. Maria Park says, quote, also the opportunity to take over the IP from Microsoft, it's very unusual for them to sell IP even in case of a studio shutdown. We spoke with Phil Spencer directly, and we have their direct support. He has been incredibly accommodating to the needs of the Tango team. At the moment, because of the IP acquisition is in progress, it's been on hold because all the related assets and tools will be transferred to Krafton from Microsoft. But yes, we'll continue working on it for sure. Like I said, we won't really rush to the market just to deliver a sequel. We want to make sure that the sequel is actually a quality level that surpasses the community's expectations. Then she said, yes, the team was working on Hi-Fi Rush 2 when we first met them. They want to make sure it surpasses the expectations of the existing fans. For instance, some of the feedback about Hi-Fi Rush was that some people felt it was just going through factories. So now they want to give it a more open world type of experience. I don't think it's going to be completely open world, but a more dynamic environment that you can play in. Also, having more advanced technology applied to the rhythm action so that it feels more synchronized. I think the build that we looked at was about 6 months old when we went to meet with them. End quote. The studio size will sit around 90 to 100 people by the end of this year, with Krafton estimating 70 to 80 of the original staff of 90 at Tango will be staying on board. And unfortunately, she also confirmed that there was the Evil Within anniversary content in development that likely will not release now. So we got a lot here, Cog. Krafton has bought, Tango Gameworks. They got the Hi-Fi Rush IP. They're willing to say it's probably not going to sell well. They're going to do it anyway. And we even have details on it being more open, more dynamic, a better focus on that feeling of rhythm in the game, which is kind of crazy because I feel like it was always kind of in tune, but they have an idea of how they can do it better. So a lot here to unpack. I was very excited to see how much Krafton was really talking about this. What are your thoughts on what they got here?
Very refreshing. I'm glad you brought this to attention. I missed the entire article. I caught like the TLDR stuff, but I didn't catch the article. So I'm glad you put this in here. This is dope. I mean, look, two things. One, we all love that Tango is saved, right? So getting the details about it is super dope because in the sense that, they said, look, it's rare that Microsoft is going to get rid of the studio and then also sell the, give them the IP. And they were honest in the sense that, look, they didn't expect this to make money. This is about getting this team for the talent and what they can do. And I love what they said about mitigating, risk in a very volatile industry by having this portfolio. So Hi-Fi Rush is something they value. They recognize that, it's not a big seller. And we have to be honest with the people who were against, don't get me wrong, I was against them getting rid of Tango, shutting Tango down. But we had to be honest with the business side that Tango didn't sell, even when it was ported over. So the fact that they did confirm that, but at the same time say, look, we got to keep it around. And that to me is what I call business gaming sensibilities, in the sense of everything in corporate, I know is very numbers driven, right? Very revenue driven, right? But sometimes you have to understand, okay, that particular thing right there is still important to the bigger portfolio. And we can, subsidize that and get, I'm just making stuff up, like a Minecraft or, you know what I mean? Like you've got to invest wisely because you still need that on your platform, kind of thing. And I love the thought process there. Now, obviously, we know their history according to Callisto Protocol people. So we have to make sure that they will be afforded the time and the resources they need to make a quality product. So we'll see what happens there. But I do like what she said about Phil in reference to, the direct support. That's cool. And then, the sequel sounds dope, as far as like you're going to make the rhythm technology better. You aspire to that. That's hot because one thing we have to say with Hi-Fi, it's so latency based, right? So especially if you're doing something in the cloud and, say like that, if you could do anything to make that a better experience and also for a casual experience, that's good. And we learned about the staff and the fact that almost 90%, 80% of the staff is going to be in there. The ones that left, obviously they got other jobs already. So look, this is overall positive. I did cringe at the open world part at first. I was like, I don't like this thing we're getting into. I think me and you share this.
I like that Hi-Fi Rush was more linear. I thought it fit really well.
Yeah.
Because it was like one of the best surprises about the game was there was so much more to it than I thought. It was like, oh, this is like over 10 hours long. This is great. And there's New Game Plus if I want more of this. Like, it was pretty content dense where I don't think it needed more in that regard.
I agree. What I'm hoping, because she did kind of say, not completely overworld, which I like, right? So what I'm hoping for is what I consider like biomes, because maybe they felt it was just too industrial, too factory stage much, heavy. So I think that's what I think she meant. I'm assuming that may be a translation thing. Yeah. Because she did say it's not going to be completely open world. So I said yes. Yeah. So we'll see. I just don't want it to.
A good prediction. I think you're on point with that.
Long as they go biomes, I think that's the theme of this show. I think will be biomes as opposed to open world and stuff, handcrafted stuff.
Yeah,
You
we
know
love
what I'm saying?
handcrafted.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, no,
What's your thoughts?
it's cool to see that they kind of understand what this thing is and how it can benefit them. I'm with you on Callisto Protocol and my reservations. I always have like this inch of like maybe Krafton isn't that bad because it's a bad choice they made, but they were also trying to beat out Dead Space Remake, which is just like a really unique scenario. I don't know if Hi-Fi Rush is going to suddenly have a direct action rhythm game competitor that they're going to be like, we have to beat this out. So hopefully they get the time that they need. But I will say, I don't understand the business sensibility of like, we're going to make this thing and not make any money off of it. So I guess like PUBG must be just raking it in for them where there's like, yeah, whatever. Like we'll lose a couple million on this. Just like, again, what? But I'm sure Tango's like, cool, cool. No pressure. Got it. We're just going to make a thing then. So I kind of like, it's very frank. It's very direct. It's very honest. And so I'm excited to see if they get beyond their next game. So we'll see what happens there.
True.
But otherwise, yeah, when it comes to open world, we were in agreement. Rhythm action. I will say, because they said so it feels more synchronized, I sometimes struggle to kind of feel the rhythm in combat. I wonder if they're going to kind of make that a little bit easier, maybe less of a skill gap, I would say, because it was definitely like the mechanics supported it really well. It's not like it was a problem with the game, just like getting into that flow. Like it wasn't until like the 8th stage I was like, I think there was like 10. I might be misremembering, but anyway, late game where I was like, oh, now I kind of got it, and I got some like good combos put together. There's a lot going on though in that game, so I'm very excited to see what they do with the sequel. I hope the companions get more involved outside of like assist attacks and whatnot.
Yeah, I agree.
Here's an interesting comment. Todd Howard on the scale of their games at Bethesda Game Studios. He says, quote, "We cut very little from our games at Bethesda, which is why the games are so irresponsibly large. And it really comes to the whole team, putting a lot of creativity into the game. It's obviously not just me. And I think that's what really makes them special," end quote. I thought this was an interesting statement because a lot of games suffer from cut content. I've played some of the cut content restoration mods in like say Fallout 3. And it's just like a couple outfits or weapons or whatever that are not even really reskinned. They're just like new names, and statistically they're not even that crazy. Like they're just kind of whatever items where it's interesting they're cut. But this kind of makes sense because so many games are like, people do the deep dives on the cut content. But for Bethesda, you really don't see a ton of that off the top of my head. So it kind of made sense when I read that. I was like, yeah, that would make sense. What do you make of them not cutting much here? Because I think when their worlds are more cohesive, you really feel all these different pockets of life and these different ideas kind of melding into one. It gives it that special factor, where that was like one of my problems with Starfield, is like it was hard to find that. But what do you make of how he calls it irresponsibly large?
That is an interesting statement. Yeah, irresponsible lie. We don't cut. I mean, look, there's one half of me that, when you look at their past and you look at like the games that we love from them, right? And you're like, man, Skyrim, all of these different locations, bike run and all this stuff. And it flows, right? And then there's also a part of me, and I think we talked about it last topic, which is like, is that what the gamer still wants? Do they still want all of this thing, or can you? I think we had this philosophical discussion with Obsidian, right? And Obsidian said, hey, we could do that, but you know what? We're better off kind of making these more smaller, denser, where everything matters kind of worlds. And I think it's just a philosophy thing, to Bethesda's point. For the most part, this philosophy has done well for them. Obviously, we'll get to Starfield soon. but at the end of the day, it's just like, it's just how they operate. You know what I'm saying? And they've been the open world guys, kind of big, kind of thing. So I like the fact that he's transparent with the fact that he said we're like almost, what is it, obscenely? We're irresponsibly large. So he does take, measure the fact that, hey, sometimes we get out of control, what I'm saying? With it. Maybe we could. I think this is the first time I'm seeing God Howard kind of be very critical of himself and certain things or some things of the team, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, I would say it's a good description of Starfield. Like it is a much bigger game than people give it credit for. There's a shit ton of stuff to do in it. It's just crazy how difficult it can be to find the content for how much is there, but it's absolutely like their biggest game ever. I would always love to see nowadays a Bethesda Game Studios that makes their games a little tighter and what that world would be like. But I feel like the challenge for their teams has always been, how can we create this world, this simulation, and like what lengths can we go to that punch way above our weight? Like, I'm sure for Microsoft, with the amount of players that all Bethesda Game Studios games drive versus how much they cost, it's probably a fucking wet dream for them, dude, because you have this team of like 400 people, which is a lot, but compared to like Ubisoft employs like 20,000 people or something like that. Like, it's just not even comparable. That's why I always kind of feel like some Bethesda games aren't understood. I wouldn't say they're not reviewed fairly, but I feel like people don't look at it in that context. And it's fair in that they just look at the quality and like, is it good or bad? And that's fair. But I just feel like some people kind of miss the type of studio Bethesda Game Studios is, where I think it's impressive what they managed to pull out with their team size. I just think that it's not a good focus nowadays. Like, I feel like that was impressive back then. Now you have to kind of narrow the vision a little bit more. Yeah, that's why we'll talk about with Shattered Space. I'm so curious what they do with Elder Scrolls 6. Do you make that game as big as you can? Because Skyrim is a very big game. Like, it still is to me, the big open world game. You know, just endless content. But the reason I loved it so much is like the content in there was fucking fire. There was a lot of it. It was easy to find. And like, but the world just felt so packed in the way it was built. Yeah, we'll talk about Shattered Space. Like, it just felt so well designed where everything next to each other made sense. Just brilliant.
The flow of it,
the flow was perfect.
Yeah, I got
it. Still is to this day. And so I'm very curious what they do with Elder Scrolls 6. What is the focus? How big can they go with it? Because like, here's my mindset. I think there's going to be boats in Elder Scrolls 6, right? If you have boats and you have to go into the Iliac Bay, then you need to be able to sail somewhere beyond the coastline. So now you're at High Rock. Now the game is way bigger because you're beyond Hammerfell. Now you're talking multiple regions in Elder Scrolls 6. So, very interested to see where they go with it, because I feel like this is where Bethesda can eat themselves up. They can choose to keep things within Hammerfell, or they could say, hey, we like to suddenly we're the base building, ship building, now boat building studio.
Do you have boat combat?
Yeah, exactly. It's boat combat, then it's boat missions, and then it spirals. And they just don't stop themselves, clearly. So we have a lot more to talk about with Bethesda later in this episode. We'll get into it. Next up, Cog, this one's for you, man. The Altars has been delayed to Q1 2025, saying the reason for the delay is because the developers would not have had enough time to complete their work at the quality level they expect. So, man, I felt this was pretty obvious. Like, there was no release date. We're in October now. So what are we feeling here? You played this. You really liked it. So how upset are we?
Bittersweet. Yeah, I really wanted this game. But and listen, you know me. I want this to be the best thing they could do. And if they want to get their vision right, I think this game could be really special if they nail it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want it to be like a 10 minutes situation. What was that game?
Yeah. 12 minutes.
12 minutes, excuse me. Yeah. So if this is the time they needed to get it out of that zone, then we'll take it there. But I think this game has tremendous potential.
Looks really good.
I'm really excited. Q1 is not that bad. It's probably a quiet period. February it's actually a good call, because if they could get it in January specifically, get away from February, and then by then things are calmed down with the release schedule. And let's be honest, we got a ton to play right now. So in fairness to the Altars, it probably wasn't a good call, but I was looking forward to that, Jay.
When it comes to the how big do you think this game is going to be in the terms of its like scale and scope? Did you get a vibe of like it being a very long game? Because that's the other thing is like, it's a coming in Game Pass, right?
Yes, Game Pass. They got the Game Pass back.
Yeah, they got the Game Pass back.
In fairness, I didn't look at I didn't hear the developer interviews as far as if they've already spoken about game length already, but I didn't get the vibe like this is going to be like some 20-hour, 30-hour joint. So I didn't get that vibe from it, but who knows? But it just, the potential, and it's so unique, and I'm really pulling for this team, man. I love their presence on social media as well, so I'm pulling for the Altars, man. I think it's going to be something if they nail it.
Right on. Well, let's see. But for now, Cog, another topic for you, sir. Tekken 8 recently released Heihachi Mishima alongside free story mode DLC this week, as well as selling the newest stage for the game at $5. The reason being that there is a lot of controversy here is the last DLC character in Lydia Sobieska came packaged in with their own stage as a free update, and now the two are being sold separately. Director Katsuhiro Harada had shared his thoughts in a tweet, which we'll read now, and naturally in Harada fashion. It's a very long tweet, so buckle in. He writes, I understand the community has some questions about the release of this staged DLC. As the person in charge for the Tekken franchise, I apologize. It was made clear from the beginning that the year one season pass would not include stages. But even so, when Lydia Sobieska DLC was released, the Seaside Resort stage was a free update. And in this case, even though the additional story mode, which should have had the highest development cost, is a free update. But by the way, this is going to sound all broken up because like he's literally putting stuff in brackets to like pretty much interrupt his own sentences. So just bear with me here. But the Genmaji stage was sold separately. And as a result, the release ended up being the one that was not well understood or accepted by everyone. At least almost all of the community was expecting a pattern similar to that of Lydia. There are various reasons for this, but I will talk about the background to this as an individual in order to increase transparency to some extent. The Tekken project is divided into two companies, a game development studio and a publisher that is responsible for game sales. At the time of development and release of Tekken 7, the development and publishing companies were not separate. As some of you may know, I moved to the development studio side a few years ago, and I've been focusing on the maximizing of the quality of the content, tech, graphics, etc. The development side and publishing side each have their own roles, and there are differences in the way they think and the responsibilities. I, who should have been the one to act as a bridge between the two, have not been able to properly participate in the publishing sales decision-making process as a result. I think that there were parts of the process that did not take the Tekken community's opinion into account. I think I failed to create an organizational structure that would allow me to oversee things beyond my own position. One of my roles was to listen to the opinions of the community and reflect them not only in the content, but also in the outgame. But I was clearly becoming passive, worrying about the relationships between companies and not exercising my role. From now on, I will review this structure and change it to one that values the community as it did in the past. Thank you. We have a write-in here from Captain Hero, and then I'll kick it to you, Cog. Dear Ducatrons, there's been a lot of discussion online in the fighting game community about Tekken 8 having a player retention problem. OG Tekken fans do not like the rage system and how it disadvantages defensive play. They also dislike how Harada and the team seem to be ignoring feedback from legacy Tekken fans. The overpriced DLC hasn't helped matter. There is also some doubt that Heihachi's return will give the game a meaningful long-term boost. Personally, I still enjoy the game a lot, although I would like to see better cosmetic DLC. If you were Harada-san, what would you do to get longtime fans re-engaged? And are there any particular guest characters you would like to see added as DLC? Final Fantasy's Tifa would be a great add for obvious reasons. But other compelling options could be anime characters like Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star, Baki Hanma from Baki, or even Oma Takedo from Kengan Ashura. What say you, Dukes? All right, Cog, a lot to unpack here. As Lord Tekken, I could get to you. What are our thoughts on this, sir?
No challenger. Shout out to Captain Hero, man. I love the message. Yeah, this was an interesting week for Tekken for sure. Everybody was surprised. Look, salute as far as the stage situation and them charging $5 for it. Salute to Harada in the sense of kind of falling on the sword, for the whole situation. When we got Lydia as a special character, Lydia came with the Seaside Resort stage kind of thing. So we thought that was how it was going to go. And then I think in prior Tekkens, Tekken 7, you didn't have to pay, for the stage. They were part of the character release kind of thing. So that was the confusion. Me personally, I think, it's just my guess, I think Harada is falling on the sword for the publishing side. I think we have to admit the publishing side of Tekken has been a bit egregious in terms of the way they handled secretly stealthing in the season pass, the battle pass, stuff in addition to the season pass that people didn't know about until the game launched. So I think that's what's going on here, the business side of Tekken versus the development side of Tekken. I love his transparency and saying, hey, I got to do a better job as, overseeing both. But I personally think the business side is trying to nudge him. And now they've got so much pushback on this stage thing, they realize, okay, this may have been a breaking point. Now, to Captain Hero's point, as far as the, player retention, defensive play, player retention problem, I don't see it as much of a problem because, look, fighting games as in a whole is niche, but it's way better than Tekken 7. You know what I'm saying? And they're doing well in that regard. Now, the other thing, as far as the defensive play, now this is a big point of contention with the heat system, the aggression thing, and even my homie, shout out to my boy Kaibatu, with hardcore Tekken 5s. People felt, they call it jailing, when you just hit the burst, hit aggressive, and it becomes it's 50-50. Do I guess high? Do I guess low? And the person's on the attack. And past Tekkens, you could sidestep. You could do things from an expert level to shut things down. That was the initial problem during the first maybe 6 months of release. They actually came out with a balancing patch and said, look, we understand we may have tilted a little too far in the offensive direction, and now we're giving defensive play. And they said at the time, this is just the first of many changes on the defensive side to stop that. And they made a substantial change where the hardcore were like, yes, this is what we want to see. So that's still ongoing. And I will give them this. Their patch notes are some of the best patch notes as far as the understanding of why they're doing something, the reasoning, and even from a character level.
Like who gets buffed, who gets nerfed, and why. It's so good.
This is the most transparent I've ever seen. So I want to give them slack, man. Like, they are really here's the other thing. This is the first Tekken. People got to realize, normally I'm from the era where Tekken dropped in the arcade first. They do their testing and their feedback stuff from that. And then it's a year before it goes to console, right? People have this love affair with Tekken 7. Tekken 7 was, I won't say it's bad at launch, but it was not liked until the year 2 when they finally got all the meta and the balancing and everything. That's what's going on here. The difference is the transparency and communication. I have to ride for Tekken on that, and Harada and his team, the development team. They are doing their thing. And then remember, they're doing it in conjunction with launching an esports tournament at the same time. So you got to be measured. You can't make all these drastic changes and then these guys are fighting in esports championships and you got to be, especially when new characters come out. So look, and the last thing, as far as cosmetic DLC, as far as who I want to see added, yeah, Tifa's she's the biggest name right now. People get Tifa.
They got to figure that out.
Yeah, she fits. You know what I'm saying, kind of thing. You know, we had what's your man from Final Fantasy that was there last year? I forget. Noctis was there last year.
Yeah.
There's so many cool characters, man. I think the fourth character will be a guest character. That seems to be kind of like the pattern. You do 3 kind of mainstays. We did Eddie, Lydia, and now Hayachi, and I'll talk about that DLC when it gets to my game playing. Yeah, I think it's guest character. I don't know where they're going to go. There's so many cool things they go. I think for me, I love all his characters. I love Baki. I love all that stuff. Tifa, if they could pull Tifa off,
yeah,
you'll get that square bag. And I think that relationship did really well for them last time with Noctis. So I think a square character is coming.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of recent games that they would look at and go, oh, we could do something with that and put it in our game. You know, 2B has become really popular. Lucy is in Guilty Gear, which I thought was just a really cool, deeper cut. That was awesome to see. I feel like it's got to be someone with hand-to-hand combat, but then I think of with swords and stuff. I'm like, what if they got the Stellar Blade main character for some reason? You know, I forgot her name, but I'm looking at the game in front of me. I'm like, that'd be different. But that was also a really popular game this year. So I don't know. It would be very interesting to see which way they go with a guest character. I haven't played in a few months, admittedly. I've kind of sat on all the DLC. I played Lydia when she came out. I really like her a lot. I think she would be kind of my 1B or C at this point because I really just enjoyed her kit. But yeah, otherwise, I saw a title. I got to watch the video because it was one of those. It was such a good title for a video from our man FeedEx where he said,
my man.
Yeah, he said something like, "I trust the Tekken team, but not Bandai," or something like that. The video title was something like, "I trust development team, not the publishing side, though." And how they can kind of muddy the waters here big time for a really good fighting game. And so that's what I want to check out because I value his opinion a lot on Tekken 8. Super balanced guy, super nice guy, just from you can gather in his videos. Just has what's best in mind for the community always. Also
so technical, so good.
Yeah.
I love FeedEx.
Yeah, he's so good. So very, very keen to see what he has to say on the matter. But I will say when it comes to Tekken 8, it just seems like such a easy thing to catch. We gave away one stage for free. We're charging for the next, but we're giving away story content. It's very weird and inconsistent. It's the thing you probably want to charge for is the story because that budget wise makes the most sense.
I was surprised that was free.
Yeah. Have you, we'll talk about.
Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, I played.
I'm curious how much is there.
I played and beat. I have thoughts.
All right. Well, we'll wait till then. But yeah, it's an interesting time for Tekken 8 for sure. And so I hope that they pull out of this unscathed because it's an amazing fighting game. All right, Cog, next up here. We have context around Assassin's Creed Shadows and its delay from Insider Gaming, plus new information on a co-op mode that just broke today. So let's start off with the context on the Assassin's Creed Shadows delay. Starting off with the article here, Ubisoft had, I'm starting at the wrong point here. Yves Guillemot pointed out in an internal memo that Star Wars Outlaws initial sales proved softer than expected, with Guillemot pointing out that critics rated the game a 76 out of 100 on Metacritic. And although I wasn't given the figure on what Ubisoft anticipated Outlaws to sell within its first month, the game has just surpassed 1 million units sold at the time of writing. Its performance has seemingly caused alarm bells to ring at HQ, which has not only led to the approval of Assassin's Creed Shadows being delayed to Q1 2025, to finally putting games back on Steam, a request that every Ubisoft team has been pushing for years. So why was Shadows delayed? It's a complicated question without a single answer, but it boils down to a strict development timeline, polishing, and addressing the Japanese community's cultural and historical accuracy concerns. But first, let me address some of the wild rumors about Yosuke. He's not going to be removed. However, sources have said that the team has been actively addressing many of the historical and cultural concerns, which started before the game's reveal following external playtests and were accelerated further following the game's initial reveal and mass feedback. This includes changing some of Yosuke's story and how he's portrayed in the game, fixing architectural details, and ensuring that the game is historically grounded while fitting into the Assassin's Creed universe. Fundamentally, though, these are issues that should have been caught internally before the game's reveal, especially given Ubisoft's strict asset approval process. As for how these issues fell through the cracks, I'm told that historical experts were brought onto the project much later than usual for a project of this magnitude, and that miscommunication between teams and cutting corners when it came to approval process of assets to meet deadlines were also at play. As for the game's polish issue with bugs, it's pretty self-explanatory. The game is currently not at a stage it needs to be for release. And I'm told that there have been some tweaks to some gameplay mechanics and elements that are going to take time to incorporate. While some of these issues were highlighted in recent playtests and mock reviews, these are end-of-development issues that will take a little longer. Of course, they're not new issues for the team. 7 developers working on the project said that they have been pushing for a delay for some time, and their situation had even been heard at other studios in the company. Ultimately, though, the delay comes down to a strict development timeline and the need to address issues caused by the set timeline. As for how Ubisoft HQ continues to ignore the developers at almost every level, Ubisoft Executives Committee and Board of Directors will decide in their review, although 80% of 40 Ubisoft developers think that this ends in no change or layoffs, but that's another story on the internal issues for another time. For now, though, Ubisoft Quebec will release Assassin's Creed Shadows on February 14th, 2025. And while the game isn't matching Valhalla and pre-order numbers, which launched on past generation consoles to a wider market, the numbers are solid and are likely to rise given its Steam release announcement. Meanwhile, just to pack this one in, and I'll kick it to you, Cog. Assassin's Creed Shadows currently has a co-op mode in development, which is scheduled to release post-launch. The co-op mode, codenamed League, is under development at Ubisoft, but doesn't have a set release date due to the game's recent postponement, which is affecting the entire Assassin's Creed pipeline. However, sources tell me that League was in development long before the postponement, and that this wasn't an addition because of the delay. While specific details on what the game mode might be are actually slim, presumably the co-op mode will see Naoe and Yasuke fight side by side using their different combat abilities to take out enemies. That isn't the only multiplayer Assassin's Creed experience to hit players' hands within the next 18 months either. It's understood that Assassin's Creed Invictus, a full-fledged multiplayer experience, will come out in 2025. Other Assassin's Creed games in development include a Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake under codename Obsidian and codename Hex, which have been described as the darkest Assassin's Creed to date. Hey, that's music to my ears. Anyway, that's everything we got. Shout out to Insider Gaming's Tom Henderson on both these scoops here. Cog, your thoughts on the delay for Shadows now with this context in mind, as well as the co-op mode?
Yeah, it's good to get this information. Good reporting by Tom. Look, we said ad nauseum that, we felt from the historical standpoint, we started to see some chinks in the armor that were really inexcusable and that they needed to tighten up. So to hear that, historians were brought in a little later than we thought, you know what I mean? that to me was the red flag. At least kudos to them for at least recognizing that this is getting pushback. Also, Japanese culture, is getting pushback from historical references and so on and so forth. I do like the fact personally, yes, because there were rumors that, they're going to remove Yasuke, whatever. So that's not happening. But at the end of the day, this has to be accurate to that culture. I'm always going to be on the side of that. You know what I'm saying? Because I can scream, I'm a black man to the blue, black in the face. But at the end of the day, this is about that region and how they feel they're being respected, kind of thing. And we talked about ad nauseum the broken Torii Gate situation, which I was very offended by. I felt for them on that. Again, for those who don't know, Nagasaki, the bombing, having a broken Torii is one of the most emotional things that's going to bring back that
recognizable image from that moment. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And I used on ILP not to get graphic. I was just like, it would be the equivalent of like having Assassin's Creed Israel and you have some mock concentration camp part of the collectible. Like there's certain things you just can't do. You know what I mean? You have to be respectful. So that part there, as far as the choice, as far as they say the numbers are solid, but as far as like, what they're doing, they said, hey, they're going to do the season. You're going to get the season pass, I think, if you pre-order. You know what I mean? So that's one thing to try to entice more. I do like the Steam thing because at the end of the day, I'm getting sick of the only get it on our storefront kind of mentality. And the PC community don't play that. And if you are desperate for sales, you need to accommodate that. And I think we're starting to see more of this lately. I think EA is starting to get with that as well. Like you're going to have to put these things on Steam if you want to succeed. So yeah, that right there. As far as the co-op situation, I mean, I'm interested. I want to see how they pull it off. It sounds kind of interesting. I just hope that the stealth, I always forget the female character's name. Nawe. What is it? Nawe. Thank you. I just want to make sure Nawe is respected as the stealth character doing this co-op stuff because I don't want her running around.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If she's the ninja, you know what I mean, the Konichi. So that's my thing. But again, I'm going to assume they're going to respect that part and do it in a creative and cool way. So I could see that. And yeah, as far as everything else, what is it? They're doing a multiplayer. That's like some Fall Guys bold kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. That part probably ain't for me.
Yeah.
But look, they're course correcting. We will see. I'm pulling for them. I hopefully that they've taken this feedback. They're making the game better. They're doing the historical things they need to do to respect the culture and ultimately make a better game that has better polish. That's all I care about.
Yeah, dude. Obviously, I said a lot about the situation in Assassin's Creed last week, so I have less to say this week on the matter other than it's very interesting to see them actually address the historical accuracy and cultural concerns. And I wonder if they're going to be loud about that because the report was there was toxic positivity in their team. Right. And they were like, hey, it's just a toxic subset of gamers saying this. But then even their own fans, it's kind of happening with Dragon Age right now where even their own fans are turning on them where it's like, oh, you guys aren't doing the keep. Like you guys aren't letting me have my choices from Origins play a factor. And now they got both sides attacking them. And I think beyond that, the money woke them up, right? The money of like, oh, Star Wars Outlaws wasn't going to, that has to be I'm telling you, that is a cratering fucking loss in the making, dude.
Absolutely.
1 million sales. So Gene Park brought up a really good point. Showed it on his Twitter account that Yakuza in 1 week sold 1 million copies. Then like, that's insane when you think about it.
Wow.
That's insane. Yakuza selling as much as a Star Wars game. A Star Wars game took a month to hit Yakuza numbers that they got in a week. That's wow.
Sobering.
Yeah. Very much so. It speaks to the state of Star Wars, which is what I talked about last time, where I was like, dude, especially, I'm sure part of it was just how colossally awful the Acolyte was. I could only get 5 episodes in. I was just like, this is fucking terrible, dude. It's absolutely an abomination. And I think that definitely derailed a lot of, because if like, I'm a hardcore, like I love Star Wars through thick and thin. If I'm like disenfranchised now, and I'm now watching Star Wars: The Clone Wars to kind of sober up a little bit. Like, okay, yeah, give me the good shit. Like, this is what I'm here for. If I'm feeling that way, I can only imagine those who are like Gene, who are like, I already thought this sucked for a while. How reaffirmed they feel, right? So yeah, Star Wars Outlaws doing that bad should be scary because licensing fees, low sales. They're not. I mean, they marketed the shit out of that game. Obviously, we know they had like a bunch of creators impress it, like Disneyland or Star Wars World or whatever. So like they were throwing bags everywhere they could for this game. And for it to come out with 1 million sales, not good. Not good. So yeah, Assassin's Creed Shadows. I get why they'd want to cash in on this doing at least decently to kind of get some momentum going. But it starts with quality, man. And it starts with like,
Absolutely.
it's so funny because like I think Assassin's Creed could be understood as the history action series, but you still, when you use like, for example, in Assassin's Creed Origins, they have that, forgetting the exact name of the mode, but they have a history mode that you walk
Yes.
through and you see the landmarks and they give you like, it's written by historians, like, a full breakdown of like what you're looking at, what happened here. It's interactive history. And I feel like Assassin's Creed still has to be grounded in that level of reality to make the rest of the fiction work. Like, oh, Connor's
Right.
working with Benjamin Franklin. It's like, yeah, like
Right.
this is fun, this is cool, but it's grounded in the reality of like these characters existing at the same time. So just the amount of oversight that's been done on this project is insane, especially in a post Ghost of Tsushima world where like you see the opposite. Like you see Japanese fans loving what a Western developer did for their culture in Ghost of Tsushima and that understanding that came from Sucker Punch. Like it's just baffling. It's baffling how many oversights have been attached to this game over time. It's really disappointing.
It's a good point. It's a good point because look, the way I look at Assassin's Creed, you made a fantastic point in reference to historical fiction, right? You know, we understand that usually the character you take, you win, you know, George Washington, all these figures of the time. So things got to be accurate. But we have to forget, this is a unique case in the sense that Yasuke is the first time they actually took someone that you control that supposedly has that, you're a figure, so to speak. One of the characters is, right? So when you take that liberty, now you have to do extra due diligence with certain things to make sure things act as people are going to challenge. And the fact that they brought people in halfway, that seems to be problematic. And now it looks like the pushback worked and they're getting it. And I thought it was a big tell not being at Tokyo Game Show.
Mm-hmm.
Not being there is a big tell to me. You know what I'm saying? I get
good read. I didn't even think of it that way.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Your Assassin's Creed game in Japan, which you want that audience to really galvanize and get behind, and you're not ready to show it there, to me shows, okay, we got to do a little bit more work here. And at least, thankfully, the toxic whatever possibility was crushed that they realize, okay, we got to get it together. We cannot fumble the bag here. So we will see. We will
so
see
interesting with the Ghost of Tsushima parallels, though, because Ghost of Tsushima had Legends launch after its release, and now we have a co-op mode for Assassin's Creed Shadows in development for after its launch. I hope it's good, though. I love Assassin's Creed Unity. I was just saying on, I think, Constellation. Now,
Constellation.
Like,
Stella, you said it. Yeah.
I was like, there's so many things from Unity that they just dropped that I never understood. Like the co-op missions were awesome in Unity. Like why it encouraged them to do like freeform, open level design. They did a really good job at that. Like why that just was left dead there is beyond me. So hopefully they bring that back. That would be really cool. I also think Splinter Cell Blacklist had a decent co-op mode, so it'd be really cool to see that as well.
Sure.
All right, Cog. Time for a fun one. We're going to kick it to me now. AEW, All Elite Wrestling, considering a new game development partner. This one also from Insider Gaming, who's just getting a lot of reps this show. This is what they say. Multiple sources have told me that the decision makers at AEW are strongly considering finding a new development partner moving forward. This comes after numerous issues surrounding the game's development. Quote, AEW, knows that things didn't go the way they expected. The game was over budget and it under-delivered when it came out. It has AEW strongly considering moving to a new developer for their games, end quote. This is really interesting. I'll keep reading it, and I have some thoughts here. They say AEW is trying to figure out where to go with their games. The original contract with Yuke's called for 1 year of post-launch updates, which came in the form of 4 season passes that added wrestlers, moves, game modes, and venues. The last DLC pack came out in July, adding Jay White to the roster. There have been talks for recently signed wrestlers in Will Ospreay, Kazuchika Okada, and Mercedes Moné to join the game's roster, but it's unclear whether those talks between AEW and Yuke stand. The source who spoke on the condition of anonymity said that the primary focus is around the gaming future as a whole. Everything is on the table. There were some positive with the Yuke's relationship, and some feel that a foundation is in place. Another game could make things better rather than giving up after one attempt. But you can't argue that there are concerns with how things went in the final year of the game's development. Continuing on, they talk about issues to the start. Issues with Yuke's and AEW date back to before Fight Forever was released. There was a lot of butting heads between both sides, including involving AEW Executive Vice President Kenny Omega. At one point, I was told Omega was frustrated to the point of hating working with Yuke's, while others felt that Yuke's was trying to take advantage of Omega due to his inexperience around helping with game development. No one was happy when the game came out, a source said. Even before launch, internal talks started about whether to continue with the game with Yuke's or bring it to a new developer and either build on what's been done from start or start from scratch. Sorry, I'm having a horrible time reading this. Or leave the console market and continue to focus on mobile.
Wow.
A lot of people in the company want another shot with a console game, but it only matters if the one signing the check wants to trust them again. When I asked where it sits, I was told no one knows. AEW owns the rights to build Fight Forever. It was built using Unreal Engine 4. I actually didn't know that. That's interesting. And can bring it over to a new developer if they wanted to build on top of what was made. It's unlikely that after Fight Forever went well over budget and didn't turn a profit, the company would look to have another game built from scratch, but that comes down to the kind of deal made with a new partner. It's important to clarify that these issues are currently in the discussion stage. No final decision has been made by AEW regarding a new partner or if there will be a new game anytime soon. Quote, there are feelers out to some of the large developers in the space, including some obvious ones, to see what the interest is in a wrestling game. They are doing their due diligence before any decision is made, end quote. Very interesting. You know what's funny is this game looks like shit, and the fact that it was over budget is fucking crazy to me. Fucking crazy to me, man. Like, I loved AEW a lot, especially at that point. That was like peak AEW, that Fight Forever. They had All Out. They had everything going for them. The launch of Collision. It was such an exciting time to be a fan. That fucking sore eye of a game was just sitting there. I was like, man, awful. So the fact that they went over budget is crazy to me. As for a new development partner, I don't think they can do it. That game looked not great. I know people are like, went for the No Mercy style. Now we know what happened. They were working within their means, clearly. So look, when it comes to new development partner, to start from scratch, the amount of cost and the amount of time it would take, it just wouldn't make sense. Like, AEW games are not going to sell a ton. Fight Forever didn't sell very good and it had awful reviews. So they need to stick with Yuke's if they want to make another console game. The foundation is there, and I'm sure with all the wrestlers baked in and all the stages and all the modes that they developed, that was one of the biggest problems. Is that AEW Fight Forever's career mode was it was an atrocity, dude. I
told me.
Oh my God, man. I always remember that feeling of just the cutscenes, the story, how just bad it was. I was in awe. I was like, I wasn't expecting much, but holy shit, man. So yeah, I think you got to stick with Yuke's though, because they at least have the foundation there to iterate and to improve. And there could be something there with now everyone there. Like, you don't have to focus on making all these wrestlers. Like, you just remove some that are like CM Punk, no longer on the roster, that sort of thing. But yeah, AEW, new development partner, particularly interesting to see what comes out of that. But that means that they probably reached out to 2K. If they said some obvious ones, they probably reached out to 2K, and I'm like, damn, imagine 2K doing both WWE and AEW. That would be awesome. Wow. That would be awesome.
Yeah, this is surprising to hear, man. Very sad because, you know, with me as an OG, to hear this relationship deteriorate like this, you know, again, I'm not in the room. I don't know who's in the room, but I'm like, damn, I like Ukes from back in the day. Is it a situation where, you know, they're just not up with the times? Is it a situation where AEW may have been too demanding for what their scope was? I don't know. But, you know, to hear them say, yo, we don't want to work with them again. I hate working with them. Like, that's bad, bro. And then obviously you played the game, finished product. You were like, bro, this thing was half baked. There was a lot of problems. The career mode was terrible.
I'm an AEW diehard at the time. I don't watch it as much anymore because I kind of fell out of love with the product. Yeah. So I talked with oh my God, I'm forgetting his name. Colin's best friend.
Is it Miguel? Why am I forgetting?
No, not Miguel. What the hell?
Why am I forgetting Colin's best friend's name? Ramon.
Yeah,
Ramon. Sorry.
Colin's best friend, Ramon. Yeah, I talked to him for like 3 hours. I love Ramon, dude. I felt so bad. Like,
awesome.
I teased him at the live show because he was like, hey, sorry if I was like talking your ear off about AEW. I was like, dude, you totally were. And he just immediately hung his head. I was like, I'm kidding. Like, I was like, I'm kidding, dude. Like, I loved it. I loved that someone else
understood. A bag.
Yeah, we were fucking talking for like 4 hours that night about AEW and wrestling and everything and how much he loves it and treats it like an art. It's a really cool conversation. But I just have been out of AEW for a while. So I want to get back into it. But like, to me, once CM Punk left, I'm not a big Punk head, but once he left, Collision, which was my favorite AEW, I loved Dynamite, but bro, AEW Collision, COG, like, it was such a different energy, dude. It was so good. And now it's like Rampage again. Like, it's just this bonus wrestling show. There's not like high profile matches often enough. And so, yeah, like, I want AEW to get back to that level, for me at least. For a lot of people, it's doing better than ever. They're doing HBO Max simulcast now, which I'm kind of interested in because I'm like, okay, hold up, I can actually fucking watch this thing now.
Yeah, wow, HBO bag.
Yeah,
All right, I didn't know this.
No, and they signed a new deal. Like they're making money. They're doing fine. A lot of people are like they're going under.
Okay.
I'm like, no, they're doing fine. They're making shit tons of cash. They sell merch like crazy. They're focused on their couch audience is what I call it, not their live audience. Where I think WWE fosters a bigger live audience.
Yeah.
But I want them to make another game. I think that would be really cool. But I think you got to stick with Ukes personally. I think you got to.
Yeah, and then, like you said, budget wise, and then for OG reference, when I'm thinking about the THQ days and stuff like that, WCW first NWO Revenge was the first game, and it was okay. It wasn't like highly reviewed, but you saw the foundation was there. I feel from a gameplay standpoint, I felt like it was solid. It was just everything else. So they've got that as a foundation. That's why I got confidence in. So hopefully, they can build upon it and actually work together and make a better product and not blow the budget this time.
Yeah. Let's hope. All right, Cog. Last bit of news here, and we're on to what we're playing in the main section of our show. Because I should have said this at the top. Don't really have any news this week in the terms of like major hitters. So our what we're playing section is the news, if you will. And then we're going to go to Game Pass pick of the week. Final write-in. We're out of here. All right. So last bit of news here. We have an update on Larian's next game because Larian Studios head Swen Vinke has suggested that their next game might not arrive until 2029, but says, don't hold us to a date. So, after the absolutely lovely Baldur's Gate 3 and no more updates or post-launch support on that, they just dropped, I think it's called Patch 7. It had modding and everything. Are you okay waiting 5 years for greatness?
Look, man, good games like this, they take time, right? Baldur's Gate is such a great game, and thank God they released the simultaneous patch for consoles now so that I can do cross-save again. And I tell you, people were hitting me up because I must have went in so hard on them on Duke that people were like, "Yo, come, the patch is out. Look, see. I was like, oh, okay, they out of my doghouse now because they getting there. I said, I know y'all the great Larian. I think y'all above reproach, but y'all gonna get this smoke for not launching cross-save patches at the same time. I gotta wait a whole month, but it is resolved.
Excellent.
The beef is over. I put down my sword against them for now. Yes. But look, Larian, legends in the games, take your time, do what you got to do. I was surprised that Baldur's Gate ain't gonna get no more.
Yeah, but you know what? It seems like they're doing the right thing here. They made obviously a shit ton of money off of Baldur's Gate 3 compared to any of their older games. Now you get to retool for the future. They open up a new team. They start building from the ground up for whatever they're doing next. They have 2 games in development, so I imagine now they've hit the reset button. Not going to really lean into crowdfunding or anything for this, and just kind of get the gears going. And when this is ready, whatever this next game is, I'm sure the game that follows it won't take much longer. Not like a 5-year gap, maybe, but maybe 4 instead. Just because they'll have had like enough time with both these games. Because I'm sure starting up a new studio and deciding what that next project is and getting that rolling will take a lot of time and just giving them their own focus and vision. But I'm very excited for their future because I think they're doing it right here. They're not rushing it. They're not forcing it. They're more importantly not doing what makes financial sense. Like doing more Baldur's Gate 3 DLC, duh. But they said, no, like we tried it and we didn't like what we were writing and putting into the game and we just stopped it. I always wonder what could have been because I feel like Larian's standard for bad is for many like the standard of like very good. So I still think it could have been great, but I love that they expect fucking goated shit out of themselves. Yes. And so if they're going to hold themselves to that standard, continue to take all the time you need. I'm all for it.
Yeah. And in defense of them, they just put out that patch 7 is really substantial with the mod support, endings and stuff, a lot of stuff. So they did put a lot of content. And it's salute to them for, like you said, being cognizant to make that decision. Say, you know what? We don't want to put something out unless it reaches this quality and this standard bar. That is to be commended.
Yeah, I agree completely. So they want to protect their reputation. I feel like not enough companies are cognizant of that. Like you get that smell of cash and you're like, fuck it, like too much to fail now. I love that they have kept the same energy and I hope they continue to maintain that energy. It reminds me a little bit of Arrowhead and when they hit that success patch and a bump and they were still keeping that same energy of like when people couldn't get into the game or having issues, they're like, don't buy it yet. I love that. Like gamer first, you'll always win. So love what Swen's doing. Very excited for what Larian's up to next. I did reach out to interview Swen after Todd Howard and they were like, we'll interview when we have something to talk about. Now I see this date. I'm like, fuck.
2029.
Yeah, like, fuck.
Damn it.
So we'll see. Hopefully sooner than that. But nonetheless, looking forward to whenever that chat happens. They were really sweet about it. All right. Next up here, Cog. main section of the show, what games we are playing. I want to go to you first, as always, not just out of respect for my lovely co-host, but we're both playing a similar thing here. And so let's get all the other stuff out of the way.
Yes.
Let's hear from you, sir.
Yeah, so we'll save the main event for the last.
Yeah.
As far as me, look, man, surprisingly, I didn't play the main event because of these two other things first. First I want to shout out, Metaphor and, the prologue demo. A lot of people were telling me about it.
I have it right. Do you want me to?
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah,
please.
Sorry,
Yes.
I didn't see the script because by the way, last minute script put together for this episode. I will be totally transparent. So
you good.
I did have a Metaphor right in. So this will remove our final question of the show, but here we are. This is perfect timing. Astro Pear King writes, Vibe and Dukes, I must say this Metaphor demo was a great Game Pass pick of the week. Now that some time has passed, have y'all both played or beat the demo? What did you think? Personally, I cried a few tears at the end when that last boss theme started to play and I knew what had to be done. Are y'all ready to live in a world where within 7 years, Atlas releases the 2 best JRPGs ever? Have a Metaphor made me cry more than the Target kid after Matty took the last copy of Astro Vibe a day. Oh, man. Well, God, let's get into it. What are we feeling about Metaphor?
Wow. Spectacular. Man. Shout out to Astro Pear King. He was over. He's like, bro, did you beat the demo yet? Because I think when I got to ILP, was about 3 or 4 hours. I didn't expect the demo to be this long.
Yeah, when you told me 6 hours, I was like, what?
Yeah, this is some 6 hours. And mind you, I could have done more. I could have, because you get to a certain part of the demo and it leads to a dungeon. But then it has that day-night schedule, like of a Persona kind of situation. And there were enough side quests and things to do that I could have extended it beyond that. But once I got to the part before the final dungeon, the game tells you, at this point, you got like 2 more, 3 days more, and we're going to end the demo. So make your decision wisely. The game tells you that. So I'm like, all right. And they let you play a lot. So let's get to it. Again, we talked about, the combat. We talked about, how stylish the game is. The voice acting is superb. The thing, what I realize now is I really started to, I call it blaze this game, like really put hours of time. This is what I consider like the hardcore, the evolution of the turn-based JRPG in the sense that, they took feedback from criticism that past, Persona games. Let's be honest. One thing I didn't per se, I liked is like, if the main character die, that's it. Oh no, that's not about, like, if you could still come back, the party can still fight and go on. They've got some interesting story twists. This thing gets very dark. I will say, without spoiling, they do something to a character that I'm like, oh man, this was kind of rough. Like, not in a bad way, but like, damn, they gonna do that to this character. Like, and you start to already, form relationships already. I was able to get, I believe her name is Hulkenberg. She's the red-haired, very dope character. Yes, unlocked the brawler archetype. Very powerful. What this game does, what you realize most Persona games, and Attic had to school me, he was like, bro, because my only frustration was like, in most JRPGs, Matty, I ain't gonna front, I'm kind of a bully. I will run around the map and I will get everybody out of there. Like, this is not that. You keep playing that game and wasting your MP and dominating, you are gonna run out.
Yep.
And this game does not have this instant. My only nitpick is, does not have this instant when most games, you go to the end, you go save, HP, MP restore. Oh, no.
You got to manage it, bro. That's like,
that's
the Persona experience right there. You're getting, you got to manage your MP.
You've got to manage. And this more especially because the ends, you want the little shopkeepers. Yeah, that's $1,000 for one little MP boost thing. Yeah, you got that cash? You want your MP?
Super fucking expensive. Yeah, dude.
Bro. And then Attic was like, yeah, bro, you're going to have to find somebody usually late game to invest, right, into that so that you can have that. So that's the cool thing. The thing I also like is that, so it's a hardcore JRPG thing, but they took the feedback. The other thing I like is that, basically, remember I told you this game is all about it's bad discrimination in this game, but it has a positive message about a world, what a world could be without any of that stuff, right? That's the Fantasia part of it. So what's cool is I came across other tribes and they're like, hey, you can learn about us. And then that can open up skill sets and trees in this other system that makes you a better character. Right. So the depth is there. The dungeons are tough, bro. The dungeons are tough. I got in there. they give you the option, you can leave if you come back if you want. If it's too much smoke for you, we got the help get out of here button. You can come back. So you got that. But what I like is just like Persona, things are time-based. You got certain things you got to do by a certain amount of days and other optional stuff and stuff like this. But bosses were great. Great boss fight. I had to give myself a lot of credit. Like in typical COG JRPG fashion, I make things harder than they need to be. I'm the guy that played Final Fantasy VII and forgot, remember, in the rebirth thing, to move it to the side to do Curaga and all that. So here's the mistake I made. So remember, I'm thinking, if I bully everybody in the dungeon, I'm going to get some MP potions. They got to. I'm opening up every chest. I'm going through all the smoke. I got to the top of this dungeon, Matty. I had barely any health for two of my main characters. I had hardly any health potions, nothing. I had two characters had no MP. I'm out here fighting the last boss regular, right? Luckily, what saved me is I had some items because I bullied so much. I had some items that did elemental damage and stuff like that to help me out. But I will say, Brawler archetype, amazing. I gave that to Hulkenberg, and what it does is anytime you use these powerful single DPS attacks, it takes health from you, but not MP. So I was like, use HP to use it. So she saved the day. I turned her into that. Then I had my man. I had two of them. I had one as the healer. What's your man, Stroll? Yeah. I had him as healer because in that dungeon there was a lot of undead characters, skeletons and stuff. So I was using light magic, and then I would just get into a flow while I was learning how.
You're picking up on obviously I know you play a ton of turn-based games, but I just love how quickly you picked up on a lot of Persona sensibilities like that, dude. Like that's so cool to hear,
bro. It's the hardcore evolution of JRPGs. This is where it needs to go. Because as much as I was complaining, it's because I'm so used to things being it's kind of, I would say it's the souls of JRPGs, but it isn't. It's like, these are challenging things. These are endurance tests, and you got to be smart, and you got to conserve, and you got to be, it's really well done, man. Boss designs are great.
What do you think of the action combat leading into the fights? Did you like that?
Love it, because what I like about it, it encourages, look, get the drop and don't get hit. If you get hit and they have the event, there's some enemies you do not want them going first. Oh no. It is a bad look. You will be out of here. Like it really makes you smart. And it also says, sometimes leave that dude alone if you can. And if you know how tough a certain archetype is, leave that dude alone and keep going. Like it's a push-pull balance. And I like it. So salute to that. I think the archetype system is great. I don't even care if I get a review copy. At the end of the thing, it was like, yo, you want to buy? Yes, $100 version. Give me all of this right now. I don't care. Y'all have sold me. This is a fantastic game. And yeah, I'm very impressed, man. Yeah, they've got something special here. If they continue this up, and we're here, 80 hours or something like that, man, this could be a goatee if they nail this.
You were watching a man awaken before your very eyes to his first true Atlas experience, and I am so excited to see the end of this journey this year.
This is the one for me. They made mature Persona.
It's true.
For me,
it's true. I mean, Persona is very mature, but like I face value, like it makes sense. Like I get, especially some of its humor and its writing can be a little fan servicey, So I totally hear you on that. Yeah, you'll love this, man. Yeah. Based on what I played from my, you've played more than me. Like you're ahead of me. Yeah. Like I didn't. For me, I'm just waiting because I don't want to. I already did the preview and then stopped. Like I don't want to break up my experience anymore by like playing a little bit again and then stopping. It's like once I get it, whenever that may be, because I don't know if they're doing review codes. I talk to you like fucking content creators are just getting fucking sidelined for this thing. So I don't know when I'm going to start it, but when I do, I just want it to be uninterrupted. Like I can just go and play and not have to worry about anything. So
yeah,
very excited about the prologue.
Yeah. So like I said, loved it. And that's the reason why it took me longer to play the main event because this game had me. So I had that. And then the other thing that had me this week, this was a rough week for me because I had three of my favorite things all at the same time. Metaphor joint. Then here comes Tekken. Tekken wants to release the the Unforgotten Echoes DLC for for the game. So this is the Hayachi character release in conjunction with the story mode and the episodes for the DLC characters that we missed. We were like, hey, what's going on? So again, I know they're getting the smoke for the stage, rightfully so. But this was a free update for the minus the Hayachi character himself, which obviously is a DLC character. You gonna have to pay for him if you want to allow. But they allow you to play with these characters in the mode, even if you did not purchase the DLC, which I thought is actually a consumer-friendly move. So let's get to the DLC. All right. So first of all, I love the fact that they took from MK's playbook, which is we're going to include all these characters and tell you what was going on with these DLC characters during the main story between the Jin and the Kazuya joint. All right, so that part is good. They do something so cool with the Hayachi character. One, and without spoiling, the angle they took, I was like, you know what? This could actually work. I like what you're trying to do. You're trying to spin his lore around and almost make him an empathetic figure. So I said, wait a minute. This could work. Now, if Lydia mains, she is a huge part of the story.
Okay.
She gets her shine off. Her prime minister flow is in here. Eddie gets his moments too, don't get me wrong. And even Yoshi, at least, because I forgot, Yoshi wasn't even in the main story.
He just has that moment in the tournament. That's
right. Yeah. So Yoshi gets at least a little cameo, but he don't really get to say much. So Yoshi made you get happy that he's there, but he doesn't have a lot of involvement. But look, they have some really cool things they do. They have a little bit of, I don't want to say, not Tekken Force energy, but when you play Eddie, there's a part where you're fighting Tekken soldiers. Everything still remains in the traditional fighting combat mode. They don't go into like a Tekken Force mode per se, but they do things story-wise to make it cool. Now, this is where things go left. You could tell after I think it's about maybe 4 acts or 5 acts or something like that. By act 3 or 4, you could tell they out of budget. It's wrap it up. And they speedball. And I'm like, come on, bro. Like, we kind of knew what was going to happen, but it was so predictable and so fast and ended so abruptly. I'm like, y'all had it. Y'all just rushed it. Like, it was. And I just wish.
How long did this take you?
Bro, I'll probably knock this thing out maybe 3-4 hours.
Wait, 3-4 hours of story?
No, matter of fact, take that back. 2.
That's still more than I expect. That must be like 30 minutes, bro.
Yeah, it's not. It's definitely. You're getting some stuff.
No, I really had very low expectations in the term of content because I'm like, the main story for Tekken is like what, 4 or 5 hours?
Yeah, it's definitely shorter than that. So I would say it's like in the 2.
Yeah, so like
range.
2. Yeah. Anything in that range is much better.
That's why I'm happy. I'm like, this is the first time DLC characters get a story. They incorporate, letting you know this is. I love, and look, the production value for what they did do. Graphically, this thing looks crazy. The Tekken monks and how they gonna explain how Hayachi came back.
Okay.
One aspect, I was like, okay. But then the other, again, missed opportunity to flesh it out. They still needed more time. And it was just at the end, it was rough. We eventually knew we were going to get to this kind of ending anyway. But I'm just like, all right, that was a little rushed. So we clearly are setting things up. I'm going to assume, I'm assuming they're not doing any more story deal. Well, you never know. Maybe that's the thing.
I don't know.
You never know. So, all right, put it this way.
Without spoiling, like, do they pick up from what kind of happens at the end?
Oh, yes. They pick up exactly what happened to him. Because I was like, yeah, how you going to explain this? That's what I would have. How the hell? You know, if you beat Tekken 8, the question is how the hell?
Yeah.
They sort of explain it in a cool way that for the most part, it's still video gamesy, but for the most part, I'm like, okay, all right, I can dig this. And then the angle they pick with Hayachi to do it, I'm like, oh, they've never done it. They're flirting with something that actually is cool and a redemption kind of a vibe. So I'm like, yes. But then, you ever watch the Chappelle show? Ever watch anything? You ever see that meme where it'd be like, yo, wrap it up, B. Yeah. Wrap it up, B. That's this. It got to a point, I'm like, oh, this is cool. All right, cool. And it was like, boom, boom, boom. Speedball over. I'm like, you had it. You rushed it. So, yeah. So we'll see. The only thing that will save them is if next year they do 4 characters again, right? And next year they do another story beat in conjunction the same way they did this. I'm very curious because of the production value. They did spend a lot on this. You could tell, like, this is UE5. It looked good as hell when they come out on screen. The games, it really does. So we'll see. But I want to give them credit with that. And that was that. And then that last thing, I guess it's time, right? It's time to talk about Shattered Space.
Open us up, please, because I don't want to vibe kill. So
no, it's cool. Look, obviously, I know you put your tweet out, stuff like that. So just let me give full transparency where I'm at, right? I am playing this kind of like a traditional Bethesda game. When I got to, obviously, you start off the mission. You have to fly. First of all, to start, it was kind of weird. You have to fly to like another system.
I actually jumped into the exact same system that it was in. And it triggered. I'm like, okay, go to system. And it's like, I literally saw the frontier was there. I was like, holy shit, that's crazy. Like, I was like, at the start of this, I was like, God, Howard wants me to love this thing, man. I jumped in the right system. There's like 50 to me jump in, and I jumped into the right fucking one.
Wow. I had the opposite experience, which was like, it wouldn't jump for me. And I was like, what's going on? And then I was on a planet when it happened. Then I went and jumped into orbit, and I jumped, and it did kick off. So anyway, so I go there and I do the start of it and stuff like that. So look, I'm just get off the bat from me. I like the tone in the sense of, as a person, as you know, that loves different cultures, House of Varun to me feels it looked like they took a little bit of Muslim culture. They took a little bit of Indian culture. And I like the architecture as far as like inside the buildings, the way things look. It's very
the interiors
modern.
Look really good.
Very chic. You know what I'm saying? I like the voice acting. Again, it's very the great serpent and the serpent and the this and the I like that. Like it's very cold. It's fanaticism, but what I like about it, it's this diametric thing of religion versus science.
Yeah.
And I kind of like these things. So to me, I'm like, okay, cool. Now, what I did not like when I got there is it was kind of like a bullying. You better join us. I'm like, what if I don't want to join? Now, I will give the game credit. This particular DLC expansion has some of the funniest clapback if you're not feeling something dialogue. Like when you read these choices, if you're not feeling something, it'd be like, nah, bro. Like, so what would be on your desolate planet? You guys are a bunch of freaks. It'll say these things.
In this game, I love it.
You could be the a-hole all the way. You know what I'm saying? So look, the aesthetic, I get there, you could tell it's a town, it's fully fleshed out, it's clearly handcrafted. What I did like is that obviously the game graphically, you got your red skylines, you got your statues and things of that nature. The thing for me though, there are some times where I go, Matty, this game really looks beautiful sometimes, especially interior.
All the time in this DLC, I feel, dude.
Right. Now, where the flip out happened for me is when I went to the open world. Now, when I go to the open world, what happened for me is I immediately jump into Rev 8. I'm like, Rev 8, let's go. I'm doing my vertical. Bro, as soon as I hit the boost, the joint crashed the dashboard. Yeah. I said, yo, what's going on? Not my chat. What? All right, glitch. Okay.
Sure.
Jump back in. One time I did I don't want to spoil the quest. The quest was so dope. It was like, let's just say there are other factions. There's a faction in this place that if you do the side quest, there's factions in this place that you like, oh, I didn't know y'all was here. And you're going to find out some stuff. So I'm like, all right, cool. And I will say the side quest really enriched the exploration because I didn't beeline the main quest, to be honest. I still, sure. For transparent, I have not finished the game yet. So I have not, until I finish it, I will get you my full conclusion. But I had to mention that's the crash situation because it happened to me twice. I crashed the dashboard twice. So what it showed me, Matty, is that this game is really still meant on foot because when I go places on foot, the engine, it can handle it. And you could tell they're so CPU bound because when you on the rev, you see things pop in, you see it's going crazy. Yeah. You know it really wasn't designed that way. Yeah. So that's what I said. I did like the aggressive combat. A lot of the enemies were coming at me, and I like that they are very strong. Like if I was like a level 50 something, I'm fighting level 70 something enemies. I'm like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. There are certain parts where it's like, oh, it's on and popping, and I like that from Starfield. You know what I'm saying, kind of thing. Yeah. So let's get to the bad for me. So obviously, I talked about the performance stuff.
I will say just to open up because you love Starfield more than me. Like I really enjoy Starfield. To hear you say, let's get into the bad is surprising. It is very surprising. So I'm very curious to hear what you have to say.
This is my thing. And again, I haven't finished it yet. I like the game. Don't get me wrong. I like what I play, but I'm not going to sit there and say like it doesn't have its flaws. What I'm basically trying to say is this. You tell me, because you beat it. I'm assuming you beat it. I didn't beat it yet.
Yeah. I have about like 16 hours in it. So
My initial issue is, as a person who loves Andreja and has her with me, I felt like she's kind of mute sometimes. Not that she doesn't engage. She does on certain key things, but I find her more engaging on the side quest. She's a chatterbox. She's in the mix, and she's also a persuasive check. Mostly, her role is more of a persuasion check. If you're a persuasion check, because she could de-escalate situations, so she's cool in that way.
Yeah.
My only thing is like, I'm like, baby girl, this your home world. Like, I thought I was going to get more of an emotional, hey, this is where I grew up, or it was more like she's just giving commentary on certain interactions with who you interact with. But I felt like, put it this way, when you're with the character Barrett, you take him anywhere. He's kind of giving you historical context of the locale, where you are, what he did. When I was expecting to hear, like, when I was a kid, I went, I don't know, maybe my expectation for her was just too high, but I thought she's more of the diplomat and a persuasion check. And I would say this, if you didn't do side quests, take her with side quests. That's when she shines. She really she's funny. She'll energize this one day. I was with this botanist and he had me going all over the place. And she was like, let me guess, you're gonna have us keep running around again. Let me guess, this, that, and that. She has some moments where she's absolutely hilarious, and then she does give thing on the side quest. But yeah, I would just say, as a person who has maybe done about 3 of the 4 quests of trying to unite the houses and do this. I got to the point, obviously, you do the cave, you do the anomalous object and stuff like that. I love that aspect in meeting with House Ansoko Varun. I just feel right now that this is my overall impressions so far. If you love Starfield, you're going to be fine. However, if you did not like Starfield and you thought this was going to be the Taken King moment, you thought this was going to be the Far Harbor moment, you thought you was going to get some transformative, this is No Man's Sky, and no, this is not that. This is more Starfield in a handcrafted location in that map. Now, I like the exploration. I think the made me different is I actually like the exploration. I just hate that the performance is hindering my experience of said exploration. And I will say, from what I've encountered, the vortex enemies and the wildlife, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, nothing like, oh my God, yet, but I didn't end it. You end it, so that's where I'm at. I think the last thing is, if you are a person that came in with a very high manipulation skill, persuasion skill, you're gonna be more than fine. You're gonna get past a lot of stuff at this.
Oh yeah.
That was probably it. I had wrote some notes about it, but it's polarizing graphically. There is sometimes, like I said, the game looks beautiful. There's other times, I guess, when you're in the open world, I'm looking at these textures, I'm like, oof, okay, like, yeah. So it's just a mix, with certain things kind of thing. But from a storyline perspective, this is the final thing I'll say. As a person, I like where they're going with the narrative. I like that they're doing this whole culture thing. I just need to see if they execute and if it lands the ball. And that's why I defer to you. So clearly I saw your tweet, you had a lot of things to say. They're coming at you, you know what I'm saying? Kind of crazy, but
so fun being me.
When you understand, you're Mr. Bethesda. When you say something,
not according to a lot of people. That's the most interesting part of all.
Oh, because Matty didn't like it. He's the enemy now?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I don't need to get into what people are saying about me because I don't really care. But it is very interesting to see how quickly people will flip on a dime. Right. Like, I've covered Bethesda Game Studios since 2011. Get the fuck out of my face that I'm like against them. Like, you probably just became a fan, most likely, if you're telling me that. Fair
enough. And let me say this before you speak. The reason why I really respect your opinion, because my boy, if anybody knows, if anybody wanted Shattered Space or them to succeed, it's my boy. So there's no motive. If he's not feeling it, he's not feeling it. We have to get into this pocket with discussion where everything has to be an agenda, everything has to be a shill, everything has to be you're anti, you're farming. We got to get out of that, y'all. And I know you don't care about you gonna do you, but I just wanted to say, it is disappointing that people can't take your opinion or just opinions in general without thinking there's some ulterior motive behind every opinion. Sometimes a dude could just not like a game, and sometimes a dude could just like a game. It's that simple. In terms of I'm speaking for my man. That's where I'm at. So continue,
yeah,
man.
I guess the only thing I'll say on that note is I know people like reach out to Cog about my take, like, what's going on, man? I'm like, first off, don't do that to Cog. Like, this is my friend. Like, he's a very close friend of mine. He's not my fucking dad where he's got to like come and check me and be like, yo, Matt, you didn't like that DLC, bro. You're not in our community. Like, this is a close friend. We have great respect for each other. Why are you going to this dude to try to like tattletale on me and my take? I was DMing Cog the whole way through my fucking experience where I was like, dude, I'm not really feeling this, which I'll get into in a moment. But I just think it's extremely strange that people feel the need to like go to you. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Like, especially because a lot of people who go to you, I'm in contact with. I'm like, you can reach out to me and just say, what's up? Like, we can talk. You don't have to go talk to Cog. Like, I'm very much an approachable person. I guess I'm not, but I thought I was.
You know what it is, Matty? It's the Spider-Man thing. With great power comes great responsibility. You have to take it as a compliment. You have to take it that your opinion on things are so respected in the sense that it will draw an emotional reaction. Mm-hmm. And you have to look at it. People do care about what you say.
Yeah, I'll never complain about that. You know, yeah. I take what I do seriously, and I opened up my review saying that I've done this for a long while, and I've had the opportunity to literally read everything that could ever be said about me, ever. Like, it's just constant. And because of that, you know, you get to see all ends of the spectrum from hype beast to miserable piece of shit who just wants to negative engagement farm, just all of those, and how it just adjusts from subject to subject. And the reason I'm very much at peace with what happens here, I used to not be, but the reason I am now is because I've recognized that you'll just never be able to put me in a box. And if you watch me, you know that, because I am very much case by case. I loved Starfield. I did. You can tell me till you're blue in the face that there's no way I did. I've seen people telling me that I made that up because it worked for me then, it doesn't work for me now, or some shit like that. I'm like, okay, just go talk to a therapist, man, at this point. Like, seriously. But, you know, when I see that stuff, it's just how internet discourse is, unfortunately, nowadays. There is no room for nuance. And I should have known a little bit better to post that tweet just saying like, hey, I didn't have a good time, because it was like my review was delayed. I took my time with it. But I knew my review was delayed. I was like, I'll give some initial thoughts before I do like the full video on it. But to my point is, I've had the opportunity to read a lot about myself, like any creator has. You know, I've done this for more than half my life. And a lot of people want consistency. They want you to either be like, when I get really mad in a video, they're like, I love this version of Matty. Like, I love when you get really mad and passionate. Like, you should do this more. And I'm like, well, that's being disingenuous now, because I'm just getting mad at everything. And I'm not a grifter. I'm not a bullshitter. I'm not a liar. So you're not going to get that. You're also, well, man, I love when you're happy about something. Finally, which is fucking hilarious, by the way, because I used to get criticized for loving everything. But finally, you love something. I'm like, yeah, I love this thing. But like, I may not love the next thing, and that bothers people. And so that's why I'm very much at peace with the situation, because I'm just like, look, man, you're not going to get me in a box, because my take is case by case. It is subject to subject, and I am fucking consistent, dude. So like, I've just gotten over this whole self-doubt, self-pity bullshit. It is what it is. And I know that I appreciate what you said in your words of affirmation. They'll always mean a lot to me. But, you know, I appreciate those who tune in and want to listen and have a chat about games. Never do I make my review content or tell you how I feel about a game so you have to feel how I feel. That is never my objective. That'll never be my objective. It's literally just, here's my experience to inform you before you make a purchasing decision, which, by the way, go back to my old reviews back to 2013. I've been saying watch multiple reviews. I've been consistent for over a decade on my stance on reviews. Do not just watch mine. Why is that? Because my takes and things I like might differ from someone else. You need multiple angles, always. So on that note, let's talk about Shattered Space.
Get it.
Yeah, like, obviously love Starfield, have its issues with exploration. You and I have talked week by week how excited we are for Shattered Space, because it feels like this is the answer. Like, I really was expecting great things out of this. Like, some people thought maybe expectations would be too high in the terms of like overly transforming the entirety of Starfield. I was looking at it as, what is a 20 to 30 hour pocket of Starfield that's designed like Fallout or Elder Scrolls. That's what I was looking at it as. If Bethesda had the opportunity to make that kind of experience, this is what Starfield would have been like. That's my approach, my angle, my thought process going in. Whereas Far Harbor was like, okay, Bethesda, your critique has been you're not a role-playing game studio anymore. You're a first-person shooter studio anymore. How do you answer that? And they made a whole role-playing experience, and they didn't have to dramatically recreate Fallout 4 to do it. So to that point, playing it, I think my biggest problem is that this does feel like a lot of shelved content that maybe got sold at too high of a price. I think if we're talking a $20 DLC COG, I have a different take here. But at $30, when I look at like Phantom Liberty, I'm like, this just isn't comparable. It's just not. I say that on a quality level. I say it on a story level. I say it on a broad impact because not only did I beat it, I did a lot of the side content, and I went to the Unity. For those who beat Starfield, you know what I'm talking about. To see if your choices play out in that section. So I think I did due diligence for my review, and nothing changed on that mark. But I did have the same issue as you did with Andreja. I've heard there's a bug if you have the leadership perk that makes it where she responds less to you.
Interesting.
And so
I do have the leadership maxed out.
Same. And so what I did notice is she was active in side quests where you would have dialogue trees. My biggest problem was that I did get her to finally talk after I beat the side quest. Like I reloaded, retried some things, and it just went through for me. Like I just got lucky. When I did the, we'll say, bad ending, right? I made a negative choice. She was fucking pissed, but it was 2 lines of dialogue, and then it was over. No exaggeration. The choice I made, she voiced her displeasure in 2 lines, was like, I'm not leaving you, but no, I'm very mad. And that was it. When I chose the nice thing, she was very thankful, we'll say. And it was about, I'm not going to put a number on it because I don't remember the exact number, but it was a decent amount, handful more lines, but it was unfulfilling for me as someone who's very invested in, frankly, it's funny because we made our jokes about romance earlier, very invested in the Andreja romance story. I did not feel like there was any impact there in that your love is on a timer. When you commit to Andreja, it's very much when the Great Serpent comes, that might be it for us.
That's the Great Serpent.
And I really thought they were going to play into that. And even, I would say, I was hoping it would be heavy, but even a little bit. But it felt generally like, well, this has really no impact on us and her character. It's more like her just reflecting at times. Like you walk into a bar, she's like, I remember drinking here sometimes. That's cool because I love her character. She's like one of my favorite characters.
So they do have that. Okay. I was worried I didn't hear that. Okay.
She'll react to the environment. And she'll take over, like you mentioned, in some quests where you can choose her and she'll say some things. And
she's very strong in those roles.
And that's good. Yeah, that's good. For me, it's the carrying forward of that character that's very much missing there. That was my number one issue above all else, is as someone who liked Starfield's base game, and I saw this ability of like, this is the continuation. This is the gap in the story. This is her arc. To not really have a major payoff there was disappointing.
Quick question, because I know you're about to go into it. So do you think maybe their thought process was like, we can't go in just because of the, even though I'm with you, I think that should have been done, especially if you romance the character. Do you think that because they figure, well, maybe there's a percentage that, you know, with other companions that they designed it in a way that kind of make it
I'm
balance
sure,
to others?
Yeah, I'm sure
I'm trying to figure out why they did that decision.
I'm sure they smoothed it over. And look, I've played, like I said, like 16 hours at this point. I don't know if there's like a quest unique to her in this location. I have yet to find it where it's like, you know, this is all about Andreja. But if it doesn't exist there, that was the missed opportunity, in my opinion. Just to, if you want to balance it all out, but have it where when she's with you, there is a quest that becomes available. Again, I don't know if that exists, but that would to me be something that could be a difference maker. But it does feel handicapped, is what I would say. It feels like she is on an even playing field when, like, it's like, you know, taking Sam Coe to what is the name?
Killer. Yeah, when you go to a Killer,
and like it's like as if he wouldn't react to that when that's his hometown. Like he has history here. It's like
good catch.
So that was one of my big issues with Shattered Space. My other was the exploration, which I was very surprised to be saying. So you have Dazra really at the heart of this map, and so I played it this way, like I would any other Bethesda Game Studios game. I've been doing this for a while and I've replayed their games. So start the main story, get enough headway into like, here's the world. Then just deviate and fuck off until I feel like playing main story content. It's just that's what I love about BGS games. It's like an emotional journey you don't really know you're on, which is like, I feel like doing this right now. I feel like doing this right now. I just kind of ebbing and flowing between what just tickles your fancy in that moment. And that's what's so brilliant about their games. So for me, I'm like, all right, like I'm just gonna kind of handle this later, and I'm gonna go explore. I explored for like 6 hours.
Quick question. In your choice for exploration, which I did the same, did you explore just natural free roam, or did the quest entice you to explore?
Natural free roam. Good question.
That's what I think is the issue. But again, I think
I'll
that's
get
what
into
it is.
Yeah, I'll get into it. So natural free roam, started off on foot, wanted to see how that was before eventually getting the Rev 8. Had the same issue as you, really bad performance. Anytime I brought my scanner, the game hitched. I was playing on performance mode on Series X. It was very much like baffled by how bad it was running, because I know Starfield had a lot of issues, but to me, I was like, I know this will be a hot take. Like, technically, I thought compared to their past games, it was a little tight. Like, I was like, this is surprisingly decent for Bethesda Game Studios. So maybe 60 FPS performance mode was not the play. Maybe I should have switched to quality mode, but yeah, I had some problems there keeping a stable frame rate. So to the exploration, I was roaming around, and I'll start with a nitpick. I'll get into other thoughts. So one of my first realizations was like, oh, this feels kind of stitched together as I was exploring, and in a way that didn't feel well thought out. I say that because you leave Dazra, which is the home world of House Faroon, and I'm sorry, the city and the home world of House Faroon. And this is a place that's supposed to be kind of relatively like off the map, off the grid. Like, it's not supposed to be easy to find. We knew pre-launch that the Spacers were going to be here. The Crimson Fleet was going to be here. And so I like how in certain locations I explored and kind of uncovered some lore, like, oh, I get why they got here. Very interesting. But right on the ass end of Dazra, like, you exit the city, and to your left, there is a Crimson Fleet base. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Why is this here? Now, that's nitpicking. And I know people.
The one that goes all the way down, that one, right? That one, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Great dungeon. But I'm like, what the fuck is this right next to their city? Like, isn't this supposed to be a secret? And they're just parked right outside and no one's doing anything. It's like, it's very confusing, but I'm like, okay, I catch myself, right? I'm like, whatever, So I'm like, let me just keep roaming. Then I start to get to the unfulfilling part. There are some great locations and quests, and I will get into those. But for the large part of my experience was like, I roamed to crashed ship. There was nothing really there. And then I left the crashed ship and went about a mile east and then found another crashed ship, and there was nothing there. And I'm like, this is some procedural content ass energy I'm getting here from this, and I'm not okay with this. And if no one believes me, it's in the footage. It's in the review. It's right there for you to see. I was super fucking disappointed by that. I'm like, this was marketed to me as handcrafted. As a customer, I do not deserve to be spoon-fed more procedural crap, or if this is handcrafted, then what happened here? Why are two nothing locations that are the exact same side by side? And there's other nameless locations, small research facility. There's abandoned outpost again. And these are mixed in with locations like power relay station, which just has nothing but enemies. If people thought Fallout 4 was just like running around and shooting gallery kind of game, that's what Starfield really is in this experience, but to a much greater extreme. I had my aha Skyrim moment once, and I fucking loved it. I stepped into a tomb, and there was an injured member of House Faroon, and I had to heal them up, and they sent me on this mission to get ancient heirloom artifacts for them much further into a dungeon that I went to earlier, and it was walled off, and I was like, okay, I'm going to come back later. And I found that quest, and it was a deep dungeon, cool lore, cool loot for the quest line, but not the actual quest reward, which I'll also talk about. And I was like, okay, like, cool. This is what I like. Skyrim, I love when you fucking step into an area and they're like, bang, quest. Here's what's happening here. There's a whole storyline to this location, or it's going to bring you to other locations. Now, I don't really grind Bethesda too hard on when I'm roaming and I find an area that is reserved for a side quest. I just played Shivering Isles like a couple of weeks ago, and it has the same thing. I roamed into dungeons and I'm like, shit, like I went all the way to the end of this dungeon and I can't go further because I don't have the key item that's part of a side quest. And so that's what pushes you into the main line. A lot of people are like, well, people are rushing this stuff. It's like, no, number one, you can't rush like a 4-hour story. I'm sorry. That was an afternoon for me. But the reality is when I'm bumping into tons of locations that are walled off that I don't know are side content or their main content, eventually after like 7 hours with it, I'm like, okay, let me go play the main story and just kind of wrap this thing up and see where it leaves me. It was much shorter than I expected. But then to me, that is where, okay, I've seen enough of this world. Time to open up the experience and just go in truly any direction without really any fear of bumping into something that's going to wall me off. So yeah, there are some good moments throughout the exploration. Like, I'm not pretending there aren't. It's just, I think the quality level is much lower compared to their previous free roaming experiences. And I feel like that combined with no DLC style companion like Old Longfellow in Far Harbor was disappointing. A lot of people were like, well, there are companions. There's actually two.
Yeah.
Asterisk, because there's two crewmates that you can recruit through the main story, but they don't really have like their own whole quest lines and Andreja level interaction, which by the way is okay with me. But like, I feel that since this is DLC and you're going to this House for Ruin homeworld, then that's why the Andreja issues compound. Because now I expect if you're not going to give me a new character that goes along with this content like you have in the past, then Andreja or someone in my party needs to step up and be the conduit to this area. And she really didn't fit that role either. So I just thought there was a miss on that as well, where I think they had an opportunity to craft new compelling characters and they didn't, which is disappointing to me just because I'm a defender of Starfield's storytelling and its characters. I think Hadrian is a really interesting character. I obviously wax poetic about Andreja. I think the Vanguard questline in general is fucking awesome. I love the main story of Starfield. Like, I think Starfield has really good characters and fun quests and mission types, which I also thought the mission types were very stale in Shattered Space. But you were about to say something, so I'll stop my rant there.
No, because you want to break this up in parts because you're making interesting points. So when we talk about companions, right? And I get you, like in the sense of this is there are companions, and again, let's be clear. There's two, right? But to your point, you're saying I want that level of involvement, like Barrett, or you? Because this is how I look at it. The two that at least the one that I kind of know there are two. It's not like when you go to the bar and it'd be like engineering technician. You know, you can grab that person as part of the crew, right? But they really are minimal story, minimal back thing. They're just here, to give you a stat boost and certain things. But then you mentioned up Hadrian, right? The way I looked at them, they were kind of like Hadrian in the sense that when you do the Hadrian quest, that's because you do the United, what is it, the UC's mission, right? You go the Terramorph stuff, right? Yeah. You see her there, you do this whole long quest line with her. Spoilers, I'm sorry. And then you have the option in that quest line to be like, okay, after advancing the story enough and saving that person, you could have this person as part of your crew. And they have a little bit more agency than the basic bar person. But to your point, not to the level of an Andreja, not to the level of a Barrett, Sam Cole, whatever. So the one that I got, there was one that was like, as mission, I had a choice to execute someone or save this person. I chose to save this person. And then that person becomes, a part. You have the option later to be a part of your crew. In your opinion, you feel, give me someone like on the level of like an Andreja who's going to have agency in between the conversations. Is that what you were looking for? I'm just curious. I'm trying to help.
Yes. Okay. Precisely that. Because again, like Old Longfellow was that. Now, the expectation, by the way, to keep it fair, is Old Longfellow. He doesn't really do much in the base game. I don't think he does anything in the base game because you can't reach him until deeper in the game. So his reactivity should be confined, but he controls a lot of the reactions to that environment. And by the way, a lot of times with BGS games, at least in my experience, you'll kind of drag and drop companions depending on what you're doing, at least for me to maximize the story opportunities there. Like I had Old Longfellow with me in Fallout 4 when I was doing Far Harbor, and then I ditched him and went back to Nick when I went back to the Commonwealth. Like that's how it works, at least in my experience. And I didn't even have the opportunity to do that. So when Bethesda was talking pre-launch, because I checked their verbiage on this, because they did say 20 named companions in Starfield. There were really 4 in Andreja, Sam Coe, Barrett, and Sarah Morgan that you could hang out with, talk with, develop, make choices, get reactions from. And I think it was a good choice because they were, for the most part, pretty deep characters that had interesting points of view in this grand universe to offer. And they did have reactivity on a level of like, let's talk about what you did with Ryujin. Like, why did you do that? Why did you trust the Crimson Fleet, Matt? Like, I love that they would come up and challenge me. Was there a major level of consequence with that? Not really, but I love the relationship that was there of just being able to go back and forth. So I think it was a good call. But otherwise, those other 20 plus characters are nothing to me, really, at all. Like I could barely name any of them, and I don't care about them outside of the Adoring Fan, which is obviously for meme purposes. Love the Adoring Fan. But here with Shattered Space, I think like one more interactive companion would have gone a long way to connect you to the plot deeper, because that's the thing it's missing. The plot is interesting on a level of like, ooh, these these fanatics are scientists. Like, what does this exactly mean for the religion? Is the religion true? Because that's like one of the mysteries. Like, is the Great Serpent real? And on that front, like, I'm like, okay, cool. But no characters, no unique mission types, no wow factor was really there. And the biggest disappointment, and this is something I've been hammering since Starfield's launch, since Fallout 4, is the loot in their games has just gone downhill. And that's where I wonder if this DLC was like cash strapped at a certain point. I only say that because I know Bethesda Game Studios well enough to know Fallout 76 does it all the time. Like, hey, you completed a quest. Here's a unique looking feeling weapon for you. Good job. And that's like the exclamation point on even their worst of quests is like, that wasn't that good, but bro, this fucking dagger, hell yeah. Or, I went through this whole story in this location and I found like Mehrunes razor. Like, oh, hell yeah. Like, it's the reward at the end of it all. It's so important. And Starfield already was missing it. And I was like, Shattered Space, good time to redeem it. Confined, make like 5 unique things here. But they were none to be found, really. There was new outfits. The new apparel was really cool. I like, for example, House Kadik's outfit. I was walking around in that, like,
the Kadik, yeah,
it's like shiny. It had like a nice cut down the middle, very Star Wars meets kind of like almost Red Rising for me. I was like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. The armor though, like I was walking around with the Zealot armor, which is very like H.R. Geiger inspired. I'm like, yeah, this looks cool, but like, what's the unique? Like, what's the Nightingale armor? You know, what's that moment like for this DLC? And I really didn't find it. Like, I beat the quest line and I won't say what I got, but I didn't get any new equipment or anything like that. I was like, that's strange.
Interesting.
And I also don't think, last thing, I don't just kick it to you because I'm talking too long.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good. Because
I don't feel like they use some of the potential strengths of this DLC properly, like the zero gravity sections, right? Like that is like there are these bubbles of zero gravity surrounding the scaled citadel that you can kind of raise up and reach the citadel through. But they're really nowhere to be found outside of that location. And that combined with like Bethesda, you think about our favorite mission in Starfield, right? That main story, jumping between time periods, like fucking awesome, dude. The fact that this is like a story about pretty much phase walking and there's no leading into that at all, I'm like, there was just, again, I have to assume that they just didn't have time. But I look at, again, the comparable. Far Harbor had come out in way less time. Like Far Harbor came out in May of the following year, where Fallout 4 was mid-November. So they had their literally like a couple weeks to patch. They had the holiday season. They were off. They came back in January and got back to it and finished up Far Harbor. Like, that's crazy compared to Starfield Shattered Space, which had a year, right? A little bit over a year, actually. And they delivered something I thought was worse.
I hear your disappointment. I guess where I'm not even a pushback, where I definitely see what you're talking about in terms of loot, because obviously I'm the Destiny guy. I'm the guy that loves loot in video games. What I thought was interesting was that I remember, like, when I did veer off and do what I consider Matty exploration. Ooh, there's something in the distance. Let me just go check randomly without any quest guiding me. There was this thing, it was like a tower, and it was like a lot of strong enemies, and I kept advancing higher and higher and higher. And I got to the top of this tower and I was searching it. And what I liked is it did feel handcrafted in terms of everything in there. You could tell they were researching, they were plotting out, reading notes. And I'm the guy that I'm notorious in Bethesda games for picking up and touching everything, reading and touching everything. So I'm in that bag. That random thing gave me one of the most powerful, like, rifles going. I'm like, yo, I got an exotic, a legendary joint. I was like, oh, this is crazy. But to your point, I did a botanist quest. I'm just going to call it that, with these two individuals, and you could tell inside they're very well acted. They're hilarious. And I noticed they're doing this, two people talking to you at the same time, going back and forth with the quest thing in Shattered Space a lot. It led me to a very dope dungeon. It was a lengthy quest. I did it. And then it was like credits at the end. And I'm like, ooh, that didn't feel good. I'm like, you could have gave me that thing that I went in the wild and got just random. You could have gave me something unique for that. So I will
say my heirloom quest line, I didn't get I was like, oh, I'm doing this because you're going to give me the heirloom stuff. Right. And they didn't give it to me at the end of at least step 1 of the quest. I don't know if there's like a second phase for it yet, because I'm going to play around with it some more. But I was just like, dude, like, this is just, it writes itself. I'm like, come on, man. Like, this is where you give me the item. Like, right?
Yeah. Oh. And even the that's a good one. Even the dungeon that they sent me to that was super dope. super dope. There's something the group is doing down there. I'm like, oh, this is dope. All right, cool. And even then, I'm like, the reward was, I was like, what was that? Like that, it was very useless. Now,
this is such a key part of their loop, and I think people are realizing it. Like, I think a lot of complaints about it, about just the game in general, would be ameliorated if they just gave you really cool uniques. Like, that's what Skyrim was all about. Because Skyrim is a lot of just combat dungeons. Like, there's a lot of just fighting in Skyrim and no storytelling. But why does it not matter? It's because you get a new shout, you get a new weapon, a dragon mask, and that dragon mask builds into 7 that gets you to a new area. Like, you're working towards something. Those uniques are important beyond just cool shooty gun. Like, it's so much more than that. It goes down to the very fabric, the DNA of what makes their games good. It's why I made a video about how Skyrim kind of ruined Bethesda last year, and I talked about how you look at what they start, like I studied like a fucking scientist these old interviews from all these different Bethesda staff and how they talk about their games pre-Skyrim versus post-Skyrim and the lessons they learned about what fans like from their games. And just, I think this is, again, just applying the wrong lesson. Like, it really is. It was awesome to run around with some of the new updates in the game, though, and experience it with content like, this new, I turned off the dialogue camera. So just experiencing it in world. I fucking love that. Like, it's so much better, so much more immersive, seeing the world active around me. Like, I'm talking to someone in Dazra and I see like the scaled citadel in the background because the camera isn't like right on their face. Like, that stuff.
I gotta use that. I haven't used that.
Try it, dude. It's I think it's huge. You'll get moments where like Andreja talks and I turn around to look at her and she's like upstairs. She's upstairs. It's a Bethesda moment. I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, I'm cool with it. Because if the camera was how it's supposed to be, I wouldn't think about it. It's really interesting with how much dialogue is in the game. The more I think about it, the more I feel Fallout 4's dialogue camera would have actually been really fucking good for this game. Really good. Because there's just a lot of talk, which I love. I don't have an issue with Starfield's amount of writing, but a lot of people do. But it's so funny when I played it, I was like, damn, there's so much talking here. Imagine if this is Fallout 4 is like back and forth.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Would have added a lot.
I wanted to ask one more question while you continue. The thing, again, you beat it. So again, you're authority, but I'm still in the early stage. I've got about 10 hours, but 6 of them is me messing around and doing the stuff in the world. And the 4 is actually advancing the quest. I did do a quest that main quest that I really liked. It was early. It was the cave quest. And I was like, oh, wow, this is agency. This is tough. This is like, hey, destroy these things. Things are after me after I learned this information. I guess my question to you is this. The thing that drew me to it as a person from the main quest, right, is I like the religious fanaticism. I like the question between science versus religion, right? I like those fundamental themes. So I guess my question to you is, as a person who beat it, do you feel you didn't feel satisfied based on the narrative story, the narrative beat with House Varun and what they're trying to attempt and what they're going through and the whole, Jinan and like, did that not resonate? Did that fall flat for you is my question.
Yeah, the narrative, like, to put it in a nutshell, because I've talked for so long, the narrative fell flat for me, which I know for a lot of people, they'll go, duh, Bethesda game. But no, like, I actually think Starfield's main story is fucking great. Like, I think Vanguard storyline was great. Like, Ryujin even was a great storyline. Like, I think they're capable of telling really good stories. This was just not that. That's why I said at the start, like, it felt like a side quest that got cut that they added in. Like, oh, this is supposed to be a faction storyline.
So no agency, no impact, no resolution.
There's one choice in particular that I'm curious if it has long-standing impact. But based on the choice I made, I think I would minimize the impact had on the settled systems. But we'll see. But it feels. I wonder if like year 2 is gonna pick up where this leaves off. Like, that's what I'm really interested in learning, because then maybe you understand the vision. With that context, do you get what Shattered Space is trying to do a little bit more? I feel like I do understand it. It just feels very isolated and not connected to base game, which is okay. But the choices they try to have you make feel like it connects to the base game. And that's why I went and tested the Unity. I was like, well, let me see. Nope. Okay, then. So yeah, I think the story didn't do it for me. Again, in a nutshell, Andreja development wasn't there. Loot still sucks. Exploration was a little unfulfilling for me. And yeah, overall, like, it was an experience that kind of left me like backbreaker kind of moment. Like, damn, dude, fuck. Like, because it reminds me, remember when we were having our talk about the Dragon Age trailer and how the recent gameplay came out? I was like, man, I played it, but I get what people are saying. Like, BioWare and EA are not proving the naysayers wrong. Like, this was one of those moments where I'm like, kind of proving them right here, Bethesda. Like, a lot of people don't like it, not because it's just Starfield, but because they feel you lost the magic. And I'm like sitting there going, am I jaded now? I'm like, no, I'm fucking not. But like, it was that moment of like, damn, dude, if I'm walking out, like, no one wants to love their shit more than me. No one. I'm confident in saying that. No one.
That's a fact.
No one on the earth and on this fucking website wants to love a Bethesda Game Studios thing more than me. And it was just heartbreaking when I walked away and I was like, I didn't like it. I didn't like that. Like, that was not good enough. Like, I expected way better out of them because unlike a lot of people, I thought Starfield delivered in some areas and I was like, they're capable of more great stuff. And the step down here was, especially because here's the other thing, man. We tracked all these updates. Remember, we were like, man, things are kind of slow for the Starfield updates. And they get rolling, right? Like, here's this new quest line, console mod support. Here's the Rev 8. I'm like, okay, they were just cooking for a while. So I was thinking like, or also like they're spending time with Shattered Space. And I'm not saying that they didn't, but it's just something felt like it got lost in the sauce somewhere. It feels very half-baked in a lot of ways, technically and quality-wise. Like, it looks like they had a year for it, but maybe they actually didn't. Maybe they had a much lesser time with it. I'd love to get some insight on the development of this. Not to ask for scoops or anything, but I would love to know if anything happened at all. Maybe it was just totally normal and it just missed the mark, but I would love to know if my gut instinct right now is correct that something kind of went wrong with this expansion.
Well, to your point, look, as a person who, full transparency, I am liking what I'm playing, but I realize there are some flaws, right? I guess the vibe I'm seeing in defense of you is that people wanted to love this.
Yes, that is the thing. Yeah, not to cut you off, but a lot of people are like, oh, here we go, hitting Starfield. And I'm like, no. I think a lot of people were very excited for this with like that level of, can I download this and finally enjoy it? People want to love this thing, man. Sorry, continue.
No, I get it. And the vibe I get from, obviously you and some people, in a sense that maybe like coming into it, like this would be more of a transformative moment for the game where you really appreciate it, especially in conjunction with all the updates and then this thing. So I guess my question to you is, we know they went the handcrafted world mode with this thing, but like being that you feel that didn't even land, and I think that's the only thing I would say I disagree with you. I think I love the handcrafted part. My thing is the performance affected my enjoyment of said thing. But my question to you is what if you in the building, what did they need to do to be like, okay, no, this is what you should have did with give me the fixes, what they should have done in your opinion.
Yeah, for me, I think number one, as a player, it felt like they checked the box. Like, oh, you like exploration? Okay, I dropped my pen. Check. Like, cool, got it. And it's like, well, you don't get what makes your exploration good. And I would recommend to them to get to the science of it in looking at their past games, looking at Oblivion, Fallout 3, Skyrim, Fallout 4, even 76 to some extent. Look at these games critically and understand why, yes, even 76 has a good flow. It's the ability to wander from point A to point B. That exists in Starfield, but it's not fun to wander from crash ship to relay outpost alpha.
You get that personal, I see what you say. Okay.
And that comes down to map design. This is why I'm saying, like, people are like, well, whatever. The map does eventually hold side content. It's like, it's a fucking flow thing. It's like, if you have shooting gallery next to miscellaneous location, next to shooting gallery, next to 3 more miscellaneous locations, that's a bad stretch of gameplay. You need to get down to the science of dungeon, quest, dungeon with a quest, NPC holders, like, et cetera, like places where people live or whatever it may be, that like inhabitants, that's what they're missing. That combined with the loot, those are the two things I would implore them to study. And I told them after launch, I don't email after my review's done,
email bag.
But I got into my email bag and I was like, locations missing, loot needs to be way fucking better. And to me, it's frustrating to look at it and be like, this is why no one's fucking rooting for you right now, man. Like, you're being your own worst enemy because I don't know if they have their head up their ass. I don't know if it's an ego thing. I don't know if they think they got it, but they don't. But those would be the two things I say look at. Look at your loot and look at your map design because they're not there. And honestly, give room to build characters. Like, none of these side locations or quests are really building interesting characters. The main story didn't try to build. And Genon's kind of interesting.
Genon, all right,
he's like, he's kind of. But
the heretics, what's the brother that's the heretic too?
Yeah, Mr.
You ain't like, all right, I like Dazra. I like the city. You ain't like the city of Dazra though. Was it feeling that?
There is a lower level to the city that I think is pretty cool. I did like. Walking into it though, It's funny. I actually left it out of my review because I literally couldn't put it into words. Like it was just, I'm not doing it a service positively or negatively. So I'm not going to say it at all. But since we're having like this conversation,
Yeah.
It's like the way it's laid out is just very odd to me. Like the city is like a bunch of platforms with stair sets and then buildings resting on platforms. It feels like it was built with the settlement mode tool rather than like a really exciting, unique looking city is how I would define it. Like, oh, I could build this versus many of the cities I've like Diamond City. I'm like, this is fucking super awesome. Like I wouldn't be able to make this. It didn't inspire greatness exterior wise. Interior wise, awesome. Walking in the buildings, love doing that
The
because
architecture,
the architecture,
they look like lush. They got the fire pits.
I love the serpent statues. I would always pause and just take a gander.
Yeah.
That stuff was good.
And culturally, again, not to. I apologies if this is your religion. That is just me outward perception. I felt a lot of Muslim themes and like just religious tones that I felt was super dope culture that you could tell they were influenced by. And I really loved that. But again, that's just me. It just felt like a stylish, like I believe they worship this stuff. Right? Like that's I guess how I can describe it.
When they drive it with interesting characters, it connects. That's why I connected with Andre, because I'm like, this is a interesting character guided by a very different type of religion, and her commitment to it is so high that it may split us apart when the time comes. And I'm very interested to see how that would go. So when the characters in the DLC don't really elevate it, where I think that's, I got to come up with a term for it, but I think the worst pitfall a writer can fall into is when you love your lore so much that you don't have the self-awareness that your audience may not think it's cool. So there's this whole side quest line about dueling and how like...
Yeah, I did. I'm about to ask you about the duel. So how did you feel about the duel quest?
I thought the duel was all right. I thought the ending was kind of whack, but like the hook is expecting you to think it's really interesting that like House Faroon had this ancient culture of dueling when there was agreement. Like, I challenge you. Yeah. And like, let's fight and kill each other because we can't.
Straight up. You my brother, you disgraced the fam.
Yeah. And like, for me, okay, that's an interesting idea. I thought the rowdier brother, will say, was an interesting character when you talk to him.
When you talk to him, he's like, I empathize. He was like, look, this dude disgraced the family name. I'm always got his back. I love how he. But to your point, I think where you're going. Don't correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
I will say how it concluded. You had a choice to, and if you chose the way they want you to conclude it, I was like, oh, that's it. Okay, just do a certain act, do a certain nefarious act. And then I was like, oh, I even said to the person, I was like, this is not really going to solve. They're going to go at it again. The kind of thing. And they were like, yeah, but and I'm like, oh, okay.
But that was exactly like one of my problems with it. But it was also like, I wasn't so in love with the idea that the whole quest line was suddenly compelling to me because the characters didn't really elevate it to a whole other level. Like, I think I just feel like every quest benefits from the knife behind the back is what I say. Like, you just have to have that X factor of like, you're thinking you're going this way and now you're going that way. And like just consistently undermining expectations. I really started to think that way when I played Nier Automata, which just basic fucking fetch quests the whole game. But it's because each time you think you're just going to do a basic collection quest and it gets dark hearted all of a sudden. Like it just turns left or it turns right. And you're like, oh my God, what's going on here? And I feel like Starfield is very linear, if you will, in its approach to questing. Like this is going to happen and then that's going to happen. And you can kind of just
see
yes and before it's even over. Like I talk to these two and it's like, okay, I'm going to solve this and probably be able to peacefully end this situation. Knowing that end result is not exciting. And I think Bethesda is not doing a good job of when they test it or when they're writing it going like, okay, you're going to expect this, so how do we subvert those expectations? That would be my other bit of feedback of like, when you're building out the locations, like think on a level of how do I surprise, right? Because that's what a lot of the quests were missing. Like, oh, I'm going to get these. I got surprised in the worst way with the heirloom quest line. Like, oh, I'm going to get this armor, this jump pack, this gun. This is going to be sick. Like, they're going to really, like, this is going to be awesome, man. And then surprise, the end of the quest, you don't get it. Now, maybe, again, I'm keeping the door open that there is a step 2 to that quest where they contact me later and they're like, yo, it's ready. Come get it. Okay, what? Your heirloom stuff, Matty. Come get it. I'm going to be like, okay, hold up. That's good. But I think that's what also worked for a lot of people with Starfield is the phases in quests. Like, there's a lot of like, you think you're done and you're like, that was underwhelming. And then you realize like there's another step that's much later in the expansion
Gotcha.
or in the content itself. So yeah, man, like I guess at this point it's too late, but I want to get one point across is that
yes, please.
Starfield Shattered Space is not like catastrophically fucking bad. It's not terrible. Just to me, it's very disappointing.
Gotcha.
So a lot of people think I'm talking about it like it's Fallout 76 levels bad. And it's more like not 76 levels disappointment, but that similar emotion I experienced of like, man, my favorite did this.
Got you.
You know? Like
because the bar was so high for you for what you know they could are capable
like
of.
I had my skepticism going into 76. And when I played it, I was like, this is just not acceptable. Right. And it was that feeling of like, okay, like humbling moment here. How do you respond? And I thought Starfield for a lot of people was not what they were looking for. But for me, I was like, look, as someone who's deeply entrenched in that community, I think Bethesda answered the bell on a lot of things like, oh, you don't like voice protagonists? Check. Oh, you like more dialogue, which now people complain about. Check. We got that. Like, we're going to improve the shooting. Check. Like, more choices. Check. Like, I think they did a good job, in my opinion, listening. So with Shattered Space, I felt I had reason to be optimistic. And I just think they missed the mark. And it was heartbreaking, man. It was like really one of those moments where like, there's very few developers I really feel for where I'm like, I love their stuff, man. And I just absorb every moment. Like, that is Bethesda Game Studios. Like, that is one of those companies where I'm just like I only get so many like it's almost an existential, like I only get so many moments in life to experience this feeling. And so when it hits when it misses and it hurts. It does.
I get it.
And so that's why I was telling you before the show, I finished the DLC. I wrapped up my experience. I immediately sat down in my chair at like 3 a.m. and fucking blasted Bethesda for like 25 minutes. And I was like, I'm going to send this to Locke. I'm going to sleep on it. And I'll see what I want to do with this. Locke goes ahead, puts together the vlog, and he's like, I think this is your best review ever. He's like, I think you just like straight up did not give a fuck and just went at it. I listened back and I'm like, there was no context here. I feel I need to dial it in more. So I redid it. So like, that's the level I went to with this review of like 2 takes. I mean, many takes because I fucked up a bunch of times on my script, but like 2 takes, just trying to dial it in, get it right, and get to the heart of the problems. And so that's the level I go to for very few developers who I think have earned it. And that's Bethesda Game Studios, who I think earned me fucking staying my hand until the situation really called for it. Because I definitely thought in the initial moment there, I was like, I'm overreacting. Like, this is not, this is disappointing, but this isn't awful.
Right. Okay. No, that's fair.
Just a little look behind the scenes, peek behind the scenes.
I appreciate you adding that additional context and nuance, right? And I know you do your due diligence. You're one of the best reviewers in the game. If you say something, bro, like, you know, I'm never going to be emotional. And listen, I'm used to loving stuff people don't like anyway. So
honestly, so am I. That's the funny part. Like, it's
funny. We do share these weird pockets like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, for me, look, I don't feel I'm qualified just yet. Look, my opinion, can't say it's different because I did not complete. I did Metaphor, I did Tekken, then I did Shattered Space, and I started. And I'm like, so far, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm loving it. I do see some flaws, but I still feel positive towards it. I think towards me is going to be how this thing concludes, how this main storyline ends. Because if they don't resolve what I'm hoping they resolve, then yeah, that will be a problem. But for me, I'm still in the honeymoon. You know, I just love everything Varun culture. And as a person who likes what they're trying to do, I just hope they execute that main stuff. And then, you know, I'm playing the side quests. And I will say the difference that I think in the way you play Starfield and the way I play Starfield, I think does affect the experience. Because if you play it in traditional Bethesda way, go search, I could totally see where you're coming from. I play it in, I go to a new area, people start talking, they say quest, I pick up the quest, I start interacting. And I think the game really wants you to do it that way because to your point, you found very cool stuff, but you could tell you were there too early because you weren't there for a quest item. And I'm not saying that's any fault of your own, but I understand how a pure Bethesda guy could be like, ain't feeling that. You know what I'm saying? And I will give you this. There were moments where I'm like, damn, I did all that and y'all didn't bless me with something unique and cool. And then I did random Tower 1 and I got the coolest weapon in the joint. You know what I'm saying? So I get the discrepancy. So I'm going to do the main quest. We'll see what happens. But
yeah, I'm curious to see how your thoughts update as you go along. I'll still be playing it in the next week. So we'll talk about it again.
Yeah, we'll revisit.
Yeah, we'll revisit because I feel like you'll like the main story more than me. I will say I think the ending decisions are cool. I just don't know if there's payoff in a tremendous way incoming.
That's going to be an issue if that's not the case for me.
Yeah.
I need some payoff.
We'll talk. You'll let me know when you're done.
All right, no doubt.
Okay, Cog. Well, we have no news. So we just from here get into the Game Pass pick of the week, shall we?
Yes, sir.
We do have a write-in here from Neo JD, who has our Game Pass pick of the week, and he writes, Mafia Definitive Edition. I'd always heard rumblings about this game, but never played it. So when it came to Game Pass, I figured, why not? Pleased to say, it lived up to the hype. This is a solid version of a GTA-style game. The story gripped me the whole way, and I really enjoyed the performances. The remastered visuals looked surprisingly stunning, even on performance mode. Just wanted to recommend this to anyone that likes GTA-style gameplay or Mafia-related stories. A perfect weekend game. Thanks, and have a Cog calling Hogue the Hulk. Maybe weirdly emotional kind of day. I love that.
That's my guy, man. I'm glad he did, because I love Hogue, man. And I speak, not to get too personal, but I do speak to Mrs. Hogue a lot. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I just thank her all the time, because she's a superhero, but he's a superhero. And when he was on that stage, I was just checking on him. Hey, bro, you good? He's like, no, bro, I'm good. So we know what he's been through. So yeah, he's the hope for us.
I remember her telling us, like, you know, he wants to be more involved. Like, he's okay. And like, he kind of feels bad. And so, yeah, I feel for that, man. But he's awesome.
Yeah. We got to get Hope back in the realm.
We do. Well, Colin had I guess.
Colin snatched it.
I know. Colin snatched the idea I had. I was like, we should bring Hogue on to talk about Power World. And then I see Colin and him scorning.
Damn it, Colin, you forward thinking.
Yeah, I know. Son of a bitch.
Damn it, Cobra. Cobra. But to his point, yeah, Mafia, man. Did you want to jump in first? Or?
No, go for it. Okay. I do have a Game Pass pick. I forgot to write it on the script. Rough week, man. Rough week.
It's rough. It's one of the weeks, man. It's one of the weeks. We actually played a lot of games. That's what's going on.
I know, right?
Playing and reviewing. Yeah, look, I'm glad Neo JD said this. I do want to get to that. Because obviously, you know, I love Mafia, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, damn, this is one of the ones that I would like to see slip through the cracks. I want to get to the OG and now see what they did with the Definitive Edition. I was like, damn, this is a good Game Pass get. So salute to you for putting us on, seeing the remastered visuals, performance mode. Okay, I'm going to have to check that out. I have to see what's going on. Again, it's just so much right now. And again, I got to get Shattered Space because Matty done set the internet on fire, y'all. So I got to catch up now. But it was blame Metaphor for my unpreparedness.
Yeah, that's totally understandable, though. Metaphor is going to be Game of the Year, so.
Exactly. My heart wanted to do Metaphor. That's where it was at. And I just was like, I'm going to finish this. And plus, they're transferring the data over. But yeah, Mafia Definitive Edition, that's a solid pick. So yeah, anyway, so what about what's going on with your Game Pass pick?
Game Pass pick of the week is going to go to Sifu. Recently added. I mean, come on, man. How could you not love you some Sifu, bro? If no one's played this game, I don't know how else to sell you other than, for me, it was the best indie game of 21 it came out. It's been a few years.
So good.
But it really is a game of mastery. Like, at first, I mean, that game beat the shit out of me. So bad. But it really is that story of, like, as you get better, like, you can just feel the flow and the way the aging mechanic works, where you get stronger yet weaker, and you see it visibly, and the music that plays as you're fighting, the boss fights. Like, this game is cinema in a lot of ways. Like, if you're looking for a really good martial arts style game and you've been sleeping on this one, like, I remember this was PS5 exclusive at one point, but like, Sifu, man, do not sleep on it now. It's here. It's on Game Pass. This is an incredible time. I actually think the story's kind of decent too. But really, the fighting in it is what you're there for. You're going to replay it constantly. I replayed that game like 3 times. Just the weapons. It's just a flow. Like, as you're streamlining through the entire level, room to room, each fight's a little different, like throwing enemies into certain objects and using weapons that you find on the floor. And just every hit you take just counts so much. It's so like, oh, shit, man. I just got hit. We don't want that. So, dude, just absolutely brilliant. Brilliant game. Fucking love that game. So please download it if you have yet to get into some Sifu magic. It's really a special one.
If you didn't pick this game this week, I was picking it next week. I was like, I implore the realm of the Dukes. Look, man, you guys missed out on this. This is a gem. And for my OGs, we come from the Karate Flick era, which is the Run Shaw, the classic. This is that in the game. I've never seen. Every hit matters. Every opponent matters. You're fighting a ton of enemies. You got to be smart. You got to use the situation to your advantage. Some of the best boss battles, the traditional where Kung Fu feels like a duel versus the masters. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's that. And the way the game starts, without spoiling, you kind of start as the villain to do, you show how, like, bro, this is the epitome of people who come from my era. They're going to understand this statement I'm about to say. You killed my teacher. Like, it's that, but like to the nth degree in a modern stage. And I'm glad you said the music be hitting. There's a stage in the club.
Stage in the club is my favorite. I fucking love that one.
This game is fire. And it teaches you mastery. Highly recommend. Sifu, please get on this, y'all. This is a great get for Xbox.
100%. So check that one out. That's your Game Pass pick of the week. Plus, Mafia, shout out to Neo JD for the write-in. And Cog, with that, I mean, again, very late week for news. Thank goodness we had Shattered Space. So time to wrap it up, man.
You know what it is. It's got to be Shattered Space DD. It's got to be.
Shattered Matty.
Shattered. I'll let you choose which variation of Shattered you want to roll with.
We'll do Shattered DD. We'll do
Shattered DD.
Hashtag Shattered DD. If you got this far into the show, you want to let us know your thoughts, you can tag us on Twitter. I am at G27status. Cog is at Lord Cognito. Use the hashtag Shattered DD. Otherwise, you don't go on Twitter, social media, whatever it may be. Use the comment section down below. Again, hashtag Shattered DD. Cog, it's been an excellent one with you as always. Any closing thoughts, sir, before we get on out of here?
I actually love these moments when we have, because it's like we have those heart-to-hearts, and get to the core of it. No emotionality. What I love is that we could talk about games freely, openly, honestly. There are times when we disagree. There's times when we agree. But I like getting to the core of the matter, and I think we did a good job of getting to the core of why, we both feel the way we feel on certain things. And this is a big one. And like I said, I just want, Realm of the Dukes, everybody, just be respectful. You know what I'm saying? This is video games, y'all. And we got to have fun with it.
We're almost 3 hours in. That ship has sailed. They've written whatever they want to say at this point.
They've written what they want. But try your best. Try your best to agree to disagree respectfully.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. You know what I'm saying? That'd be cool.
Would appreciate it, but no pressure. Just be nice to your fellow human being.
Exactly.
But yeah, I appreciate everyone tuning in. Thank you for being here, being a part of our show. We appreciate you immensely. We'll be back next week to talk more Starfield, Shattered Space. We'll talk about whatever else is going on in the games industry as the releases are now starting to heat up. There's a lot going on, so we'll have plenty of games to talk about, from Metaphor to Dragon Ball. The list goes on. Next week is Dragon Ball, actually, so let's go. Very pumped for that. Very pumped for that. So
yes, sir.
We will talk, ladies and gentlemen. Be well, and we'll catch you next week with episode 197. Peace out.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the United States of America. The show is conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Barry Lord Cognito Eversley. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level on Patreon, and we're thankful for your kindness and generosity.